Fortunately for you guys, I yelled at basketball pretty well last night. I can't even talk, so we'll talk about it. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. We had a great year. A couple of us that came in last year, we learned a lot, so I'm hoping we can get through this a lot quicker and this new one can really understand the process. And it's gonna be the last one for a few people. So we appreciate that you that have been here through the years and have helped us all these many years. We've been here last year, most of us. I don't know, Chris, did you come or was it? I was here. You were last year too. So I'm pretty familiar now. Hopefully we'll get through this. We're looking at 2 o'clock. We'll stay. I'll try to keep us on task. I won't stray too far myself, and we'll try to keep staying on task. But thanks again for a great year. I now understand how valuable this is and how important it is for staff, for us to set some goals, give them some direction, and we understand that now. And I thought we did a pretty good job. You guys have done a great job of updating us throughout the year when things are going towards those goals. So this should be really nice. It's unfortunate that our interim or our next city manager is not really going to be here. So we're really relying heavily on the department heads to really, keep us afloat, run, and I appreciate you stepping up for the next week or so. I think at the end of the meeting, we're going to go to a quick meeting so we can vote to accept. Once Alex is done today, we have to vote to allow Dave to be the interim city manager for a week or two. So appreciate especially department heads, anything that we can do to help. If you see anything over the next couple of weeks, couple of months that you really think we need to address or look at, please don't hesitate to let us know.
Dave's ready to solve all our problems.
Yeah,
I know I'm sort of my business.
Without further ado, we'll give it to Ashley.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you. For those of you that I haven't met, well, I don't think I've met anyone in person except for Alex. But I did some interviews with you with the council outreach, so that was really nice to meet you. But I know that you've met Sarah Wilson, who I work with, and she was the council retreat the last 2 years. So even though I wasn't in person, I did support behind the scenes and helping to build out the council goals and an action plan. And so this year it's really great because I get to be with you in person. So this is the more fun part of the work. And so I'm really excited to be here. So thanks for having me. And we've got a really great day planned for you. I just wanted to do a quick shout out to Susan for all of the work that she did to put it together, all of the documents. And for those of you who didn't hear, she had some car troubles this morning with her car battery and that didn't even stop her. So, so I think that's just kind of the spirit of what you all in Scappoose are all about. So just take it in stride and do the best you can with what you have. So without further ado, I just wanted to talk about our outcomes for today. So why we're here. So we're here to build a shared understanding of the community and organizational context. So that's really important. It's in advance of thinking about goals for the year, just because it's like checking in on, what's important in the community, what sort of like trends that we've been seeing recently, and just being able to have a common shared understanding of where we are now before we think about where we want to go for the next year. We're going to refine the goals with clear, actionable objectives to guide the development of a budget and work plans aligned with resources. And so one of the themes from the outreach that I did with counselors was that you all feel pretty good about the goals, like they're pretty dialed in. So just need a little bit of refinement here and there. And that's actually really great timing in advance of all of the leadership and transition at the foot. And so what's going to be most helpful today is to be able to give staff the direction that they need to build their budget and their work plans around the goals. And then finally, we want to just identify what council and staff need to be successful as a team during this transition. And so that's going to be, we'll have a discussion about that. And then that'll just be helpful information for the incoming interim city manager, and then eventually city manager, and then kind of get a first pass at that discussion, and then I'm sure there'll be follow-up discussions in terms of the team agreement. So in lieu of doing a team agreement follow-up discussion at this meeting, since there's just so much change happening. Let's just talk about what we need to be successful during the period of change, and then we can connect more into the agreement at a later date. So in terms of our plan for today, at 9:30, we're going to do our environmental scan. So we'll talk about what's going on in the organization and how and what's going on in the community. We're going to go pretty quickly through this just because you did this exercise with Sarah last year. And again, from the outreach, I heard like not a lot has changed in terms of like what the community priorities are or what council priorities are. They're pretty much the same. And so we just want to check in on this and then also touch base on what's going on in the staff level in terms of what has been accomplished over the last year and then things coming in down the pipeline over the next year to just get a sense of what work is already and primed and ready to go. And then we'll roll right into goal refinement at 10:30 and take a break at 10:40. And then we'll finish up the goal refinement. We'll start the beginning of the finishing up, so to speak, at 10:50. So between 10:50 and 12:30, we're going to take a little bit of a later lunch. So you have lots of healthy snacks at your disposal. And so if you need a little bit of a pick me up, we have something at 10:40. And then also it's like right there. So just feel free to like stand up and get whatever you need it. So we'll get through all of the goal refinement before lunch. And then we'll thank our wonderful city manager for all that she's done and give you a send off. And then after that, we will shift into our team discussion at 1 o'clock. At 1:45, we'll do some reflections and just talk about next steps. And that's what you guys can expect for next steps with the refined goals and action plans. And then we will adjourn at 2 o'clock. Anybody have any questions about this or why we're here today?
Just that we will have the special meeting at 1 o'clock.
That's right. Okay, so at 1 o'clock, we'll do the special meeting too. Yes. All right, does that sound good? Is everybody game for that? Okay, great. So just talking about how we're going to be successful today, I took the rules for success that you developed as a team last year because the same team, and so we've got, with the addition of Councilor Jacobs. So I want to check in on this as a good starting point, and then if there's anything that we need to add to the list in terms of having a successful conversation and discussion today. So last year you talked about keeping an open mind, having a constructive dialogue, being patient and respectful. This idea around it's not personal, let's keep the community intent in mind. So I think that goes hand in hand with just like that open, keeping an open mind and the constructive dialogue. It's like it can be hard on ideas, not on people. So I think that's what that's talking about. I think we can all agree that we're here because we care about the Scappoose community. We want to make it the best it could be. We might think about doing it in a different way, depending on different thoughts and opinions. But I think everyone's here because they care about the community, want to make it better. Thinking outside the box and being creative. And then this one is important. So goals move forward with consensus or majority. So as council, like you are setting policy for and direction for the staff for the next year. And so anything that goes up on the list, we want to make sure that we have consensus or majority to have it. Sometimes in goal setting or council retreats, it's a great opportunity for a lot of idea generation to come up, which is great. But sometimes it's like things get put on there and maybe they don't get fully vetted or there's not enough time for discussion. So we'll just have to be really clear if there's anything that we're going to add to the list, especially with all of the transition happening in the organization, like what feels realistic and what feels feasible right now. That I'll be checking in for like a head nod or a show of hands. And then also honoring the council rules. Does anybody have any questions about this or anything they want to add in terms of us having a successful session time today? Sounds good. Okay. We're going to do a quick warm up because yes, it's only 9:15, but we have a big day ahead of us. And so just like, you want to stretch before you do some exercise, you know, pull a muscle and hurt yourself. I don't think anybody's going to hurt themselves today, but we're just going to do just a quick warm up. And so, but I want to keep it brief because we do have a lot of work to do. So something that I want to hear from everyone is, but for me, is it beneficial? I mean, I can see your name here, but just your name and your role. And then I want to hear from you the best thing that you bought in the last year. So for me, what that looks like, the best thing I bought came just a couple weeks ago during a snowstorm. I lost power twice and I was not prepared and I had like 2 little kids, so it's kind of stressful. So my husband found a used camping stove on Craigslist that he like zipped over and bought quickly, but it was not for the first power outage, it was the second one. But I'm telling you, like, it was amazing. We set it up on our back porch. It was really great. So we made macaroni cheese and some tea, and it was just dangerous. And now we have a really good excuse to go camping and like finally go and do it, which I'm a little terrified to do with a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, but maybe we'll see. That's the jury's still out on that. But that's mine. So I'll start with Alex.
Okay, I'm Alex. I'm, I guess, the outgoing city manager, I would say at this point. Best thing I bought, I bought a new painting, I bought new art. I'd say that.
My name's Isaac. I'm the assistant to the city manager. And the best thing I bought this year were a bunch of computer parts. My daughter and I built her first computer from scratch, and that was a lot of fun. So she picked out all the parts, and I helped her figure out how to choose things that worked. And we sat down and put it together, and it's really cool. It lights up, and it's super fun for her.
I'm struggling with this one. I know my name. My name is Megan, and I know my position, city council president. Best thing I bought in 2023. I buy a lot for my kids, so I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm really struggling with this. I don't buy a lot for myself.
All right, well, we can come back to you.
Okay, it's not a surprise. So I guess the best thing I bought in 2023 was lumber to build our new house.
Yeah.
I'll go with that.
And so, and I do have a question I wanted to ask since you're the first counselor. I haven't been with you in person before. So every council is a little bit different in terms of how they like to refer to each other during a council retreat.
Just make
So I just want to check, do we want to be formal and be Counselor Santiago, Counselor Jacobs, or do we want to be first name? First name's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Lori Joseph. I'm the Community Development Director for the city. Let's see, best thing I bought this year, or last year, my vacation to Portugal. So first time to Europe, we were there for 2 weeks and it was wonderful. I'm
Again, also a city councilor, and same thing, the best thing I bought was family vacation, if y'all went down to Costa Rica.
Joe, Mayor, I would say, best thing about my wife, a vacation to Panama, that was just this 2 days ago, so that doesn't count as last year. But no, we did buy her a new car, Toyota 4Runner, because happy wife, happy life. She needed.
I didn't remember that.
Also, she's not the most difficult person, so it's
So it gives her something that we go over Mount Hood a lot. And it really was important to get something I felt safe with, she felt safe with. She could take people and paddle boards, all the good stuff. But that allowed us to hand down her car to my son, so now he has a very reliable and safe car too. And so that was kind of what I thought was our biggest, best purchase for the year.
Tyler, counselor, as you know, sorry, my mind is still, activated yet. I'm on my 3rd year, so I'm pretty much through this year. I checked my Amazon purchases this year to try to come up with something. The best purchase I'd say would be a new office chair. My back feels so much better.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
It's amazing what the difference could be. I got a new one too.
I was going to the chiropractor almost weekly for almost a year. I'm like, what if a new chair would help? That was it.
Wow.
Save some cash.
Yeah.
That's, you got off pretty good then.
Marissa, counselor, just a few months in. And I think the best thing I bought this year was a cruise with my mom and I down in Mexico. So we got a great time.
That's what it is. I'm Jeanette, City Council. You guys gave me great ideas, by the way. I totally get the whole thing when kids were younger, Megan, that they each spot and stuff. Now that they're all grown, I love it's about me, so I'm about my husband and I. So you'll get there.
Yeah, we will.
So what I bought for us or my husband and I, if you think about calendar year, we went to Peru, we went to Europe last week, Greece last year for a 30th, but we're going to Peru. So we just bought a Peru tickets and everything, so we're excited to go. But for me, myself, I bought myself a standing and sitting in a standing desk. It was pain on my back was for me. And other parts too, so. But yeah.
Cheryl, I'm the finance administrator. I think the best thing is I'm in the same boat. I think of lots of things I got the kids grown and young. But, I think the best thing we did this year is to pay somebody to take a couple of meetings and raise, back in the 80s when we built our house, we built our own house. And we dropped the front entry a step. And so we had to revise the steps and raise up a header, and I hired somebody that does work with the city to do meetings. And they did them, and it's great. It's so nice, put it in the door. It was great.
I feel like, and that's like a good, like, preemptive, so you don't need to kind of so
Yeah.
don't-
Good morning, my name is Chris, I'm Lieutenant with Scappoose Police Department. Best thing I did, my son is going into Legos, so we purchased some ticket to go down to Legoland in California, took our 4 here, great car. His wife will like it, like his Andre had. And we stayed at the castle, it was a good time, I was probably more excited than he was. And my only thing there, you have to pay for parking. So that was a nice deal when I checked out, but it was worth it, that was good.
I'm Dave Suga, Public Works Director. Last Saturday, our washing machine died. And so Sunday I went and bought a new one, and while I was there, the matching dryer was on sale. So I thought, might as well, which turned out to be a great thing, because when we got home and went to install it, realized that the pipe under the house had come undone, and it had been blowing in the crawl space for I don't know how long. So karma worked out good for us there, because that would have been ongoing.
And now we match.
They matched. My wife was happy.
Good morning, Andrew, City Councilor. So by far the best thing I bought this past year only cost $5. So it's a pack of picture cards. And my 4-year-old daughter loves picture aids. And so every day watching her act out with on the card is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. This morning, she picked, and I didn't know I would get this, I didn't know at the time. She's like flopping around on the floor. She's an earthworm. Watching her like flop around as an earthworm was killing me, and then the 1-year-old son is just dying laughing because he's excited. It's funny. So picture cards.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've got some good ideas, like that one's probably.
So
relevant. Yeah, and I'm actually going to Legoland on Friday.
I said, for parking.
It's like $25 a day, like they're not messing around. So. All right, well, hopefully you learned a little bit about your fellow students and get some ideas for something to put on your Amazon list. All right, so let's talk about environmental scans. So like I said, you did this exercise with Sarah last year. And so just to reorient you to the purpose of the context map and kind of and give you the lay of the land, the idea is that no organization works in a vacuum, especially city governments. There's a lot of things happening in the community that are helpful to be aware of, and things that you can control, and also really importantly, things that you can't control. But they impact the work that you do and the priorities that you can set. And so giving a sense of all of the different like trends in the community, and different factors at play can be really helpful in thinking about building out realistic goals that you can make progress on. And so just thinking about that. And then to orient you to the map here, it's a little bit different than last year. We've got economic climate. Someone found me as like, obviously there's like a lot of inflation and other things going on. So those big factors, needs of the community, political factors. So things that are coming, down from state government or even, if there's national regulation or other things happening that impact us from a political standpoint, lots of requirements and regulations and the things that we have to comply with. And then any sort of like trends or needs that are happening in the organization here. And then always there's things that you can't plan for or, are uncertainties. You never really know what to expect. So we'll notice that there is black text and blue text. So black is everything that we pulled from the 2023 context map. And I tried to make it big enough. You guys feel like you can read it? No? Okay, we'll read it. Okay, and then blue is new things that themes that I captured from the outreach conversations that I had with city council. So with political factors, you guys talked last year about implementing paid leave, buildable land inventory and housing needs, so expansion, rezone, or trade. There's a conversation around a county liaison and the impact to social services. Measure 110 in the drug enforcement. Obviously, that's still a really big situation happening and unfolding, and a discussion around enterprise zones. And then additionally, some conversations in the outreach that came out around homelessness, like how do we just make sure that we continue to align our rules and laws at the city level with what's happening at the state. And so organizational needs, expectations, this is again from last year, expectations for amenities that Scappoose doesn't provide, process improvement in community development. Things happening.
Is that in blue or black?
These are both blue. Those are both from last year. Economic climate. So considering ongoing projects at the city, the general fund will be tight. So financial resources limited, not likely to add new staffing positions. So discussion around staff capacity. Sometimes some of these connect with organizational trends and needs. But we'll be looking for cuts and savings with the budget related to parks. So development based on SDCs, consider park saving programs, opportunities to increase revenues. So fee franchise agreement, with the PV SDC studies, then a discussion around there's record high inflation and cost increases in terms of materials and supplies and also staffing and just cost of living. So 20 to 30% increases, and then just the reminder that Scappoose has a low permanent tax rate and assessed value. So there's just limitations there in terms of that revenue stream. So that was from 2023, and then from the outreach discussions and some questions that came up, what opportunities exist to create commercial districts, and how can we continue to encourage economic growth in our community? Under community needs, it's there's just a general misunderstanding on how public tax dollars are used. So it's hard, community education is always a tricky one, but it's hard to always explain oh, well, that's covered by the city and that's how this is used, or this is covered by the state, or that's more of a national thing. Teen, youth recreation opportunities, so desire for those, community public safety needs, how do we fill the gap, what options do we have? Child care desert, YMCA program subsidized. And then this year, county signage project coming up, make community more walkable and bikeable, increase ADA accessibility in parks. We're a growing community, so how do we protect the small amount of land that we have and grow in a thoughtful, responsible manner? And then volunteers, and how can we support more volunteer work in the community? And then also, I'll just read this one for uncertainties last year is around labor union negotiations, And then uncertainties here around city manager recruitment and police chief recruitment. So with that in mind, what else, I also will do it, I want to talk about these two ones on the, after we talk about what's happening in the community. What else is going on that we need to talk about? Yes.
Do you mind reading the second to last one? I think it got skipped over.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally did. Excuse me. So perception from local businesses that process with city is difficult. Is there a process improvement opportunity? So for like setting up new businesses. So it can feel kind of overwhelming to be like, where do we start? So let's just start. Sometimes economic climate is a good place to start. I just want to check in. Is there anything that you feel like we need to add in terms of what's happening with the economic climate and how it's impacting the community, and that we need to take into consideration when thinking about refining the goals today?
I mean, possibly something around the urban renewal district and how it's essentially, funneling money away from the city's general fund. I don't know. There will be a discussion coming up on that at the February Urban Renewal Agency meeting.
Things we can look at regarding urban renewal and maybe trying to get some of those funds back. And that would affect every special district, correct?
Well, the only way you can get those funds back is to take property out of the district.
All right, what else? That's a good, an important one.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
It's really more for, a lot of it's more for this year. I think it's for next year. So it won't affect this year at all, but it will affect next year.
May I ask a question really quick related to that? Who decides the district boundaries?
The Urban Renewal Agency. And so at the meeting on, I think the 20th of February, that's when you're going to discuss all of the documents we had put together a while back about taking up the Cascade property. That property will be easy to remove because it was never factored into the budget essentially, or, equation of the district in terms of the projects and how and when they got paid for. So that would lift out easily. If you want to remove additional properties, then you're looking at having to redo portions of the plan.
Okay, yeah, I do have a lot of questions around that, but I'll save those for when we.
Yeah, and you'll have a lane covered there and, she'll be able to walk you through your options, but you could easily remove the Cascade property and that would take you out of compression and get a lot more money funneling back to all the other taxing districts.
Okay, thank you.
I'm smart. All right, what else? What else do we need to be considering? Does that cover everything? Are you missing anything?
There is an effort to reform Measure 110. Kim and I went to the city and county dinner in class night earlier this week, and Betsy Johnson gave an update on the group that she's involved with is trying to reform Measure 110. And there were some statements that were made during that presentation that are a little bit concerning that could have an impact financially to the city. One of the things that they're proposing right now is that if a police officer comes in contact with somebody that's in possession of illegal drugs that obviously meet a certain criteria, they have to be offered, the offender right at that time has to be offered to be taken to a treatment center. And so my concern immediately was, so we're going to take a police officer out of our area to run an offender into wherever the center is, which I don't see there being one for county that would be very cost prohibitive. But I did bring that up to Beth Johnson after, and she said, well, we actually never thought about that thinking, and she wrote it down. So hopefully they will come up with a solution for that. But that is a concern because obviously if our single police officer, even if we have two on duty, I mean, that's, if there's a round trip of 2 hours, that's obviously really significant. So there's not really a lot known yet on that, but that could be a potential concern. And the way that she presented it was that they've made a lot of traction and they're almost in agreement on what the plan is going to be for Measure 110. The only thing they're arguing about right now is whether it's going to be an A misdemeanor or a C misdemeanor. With the difference being an A misdemeanors, maximum of a year in jail, C misdemeanors, maximum of 30 days in jail. And so they're arguing over which one they think is going to be most effective.
Are there still legislative hearings coming up about the local legislature? Because you should try and participate.
Yeah, I would assume so, because the way that I took it, their current status is, the two groups are basically meeting and trying to hash out their so-called differences.
The public hearings, yeah.
Right, so
Participate.
I think they're trying to get as close as possible to an agreement or an understanding, and then that will unfold, from what I understood.
If that doesn't work, they'll take it to the ballot in November.
Yes, yes, if the group that's, that wants the reforms to Major 110 doesn't get what they want, or they don't come to an agreement, let's put it that way, then the threat is that that group is going to take it to the ballot for the voters to vote on.
Yeah, so definitely like things are
Yeah.
in flux
So-
there and then I noted it here, like there's a little bit back to PD staff.
Yeah, Major 110, depending on what they do, if they could have significant impacts, and that might not even be, who knows, that might not end up being the 2024 thing. It's hard to say.
I've got kind of one maybe, I don't know if it's already in there, but like, we have a bunch of big ARPA, a bunch of big projects. And as we get going, you start to find out it's more expensive than you thought. Costs have gone up, these times, all those issues. How we need to be notified or up to date. So if there is $1 million more all of a sudden, how are we going to be able to get that or fund it? I don't really see in there. I know inflation is in there, but all these projects that we have a strict deadline that we have to get done and cost on them. So we can stay on top of them, and if there is going to be increased costs, you see that ahead of time, maybe we can do something about it. And it might help us identify maybe there are grants out there, there are maybe infrastructure grants that we can start going after. Help build.
Identify other funding sources that really are challenging.
We're gonna get these talking more just about these points, right? Okay. Yeah, the only problem with the ARPA project funding is the ARPA, some of that money I think was allocated for specific projects. I don't think they're changeable, right? So we can't reprioritize money if it's.
You can shift funds around within the identified project, so if one runs under budget, you can transfer those funds, but you can't create them.
Got it, okay.
Okay. What else under, did we miss anything under economic climate? What else do we need to add here?
Are you looking for feedback on all of those buckets right now?
Yeah, we can move, I just want to make sure, yeah, I was just checking on it, but if you have another one that's for a different bucket.
I do, sorry, go ahead.
Sure. This one is economic. I'm just with the momentum that the hotel is getting or potential where it's being all that. I think it would be helpful to be on the same page about. There's already some pressure about what the city can do to help.
Like
the
incentivize.
developers. Yeah, like
I'd like a concerted voice from our
Yeah.
council that we're all on the same page, whether we could do something or we can't. So if they do come to us, they're all on one team.
Yeah, one of the challenges that's big on our radar is staffing. Several of our public works employees are 20+ year and they're getting ready to retire. And the way that the certifications are required of them by the state, it's really hard to backfill those positions. There's case in point is treatment operators. Right now, there's no surplus of them. The other cities within the county are struggling to fill those positions, and we have a few that are going to be retiring in the foreseeable future. And so we have to come up with a plan, and that's what we're working on right now, to start training up people within our own pool so that when they leave, you can roll right in there and then we're not starting from scratch on this search of people. So, but that is one of our biggest challenges right now.
And so sometimes you're gonna actually have to hire early, so they're training, so you're paying an extra salary, how you fund that.
Yeah, correct. And it can take for public works people until 8 to 10 years to top out in their certification. So those protocols are set by the state. We can't drive when they move up and be certified at certain levels. They have to pass tests and have certain amount of tenure, and it's a long, drawn out process. It's not a quick fix. So we're planning for it now, but it's something we have to keep it on our radar.
They can't give their 2-week notice. go out and hire someone right after that.
You can hire somebody, but they're probably not gonna have any training or any certification. You're gonna start it from scratch.
Thank you for being mindful.
And I would say, yeah, exactly, just under economic climate in general, maybe you already covered it, but increasing staffing costs, you know, we have cost of living increases each year, we have some merit raises, promotions within, and all of that adds up. Yeah, absolutely.
Especially when they're general fund
They're general,
positions,
yeah.
you have a set rate of 3%
Yeah.
every year, but your COLAs and things are going up at a higher rate than that. You're falling behind.
Right.
And this-
We're not breaking even.
No.
For the general fund now.
Right.
So, definitely it's expensive.
And this is becoming more important too, because, I mean, I know personally, several of my staff are constantly being contacted and for other positions. So, you know, you really want to keep your people that are trained and have this institutional knowledge. And that becomes more difficult when people are constantly in their ear offering them other positions. So it's pretty consuming.
That's really like competitive. It's
Yes.
a competitive job market.
Very
So, and yeah, so I'll just add that to it.
I have a question then, if we, let's say, Huser Estates goes in and there's a lot we tax dollars, correct? Property tax, that's new monies that will go into our general fund. But that is used to build the roads, build the sidewalks, put the infrastructure in to support them as well.
Yeah, the developers.
Okay, so if we do add 100 houses or 40 houses, that will increase our taxes.
Yes.
Do we have an estimate on what that might look like? Going in?
No, we are expecting that we would have up to 3 to 4 subdivisions in construction coming up in 2024. That being said, that would be roads and utilities. That obviously comes first and that gets reported. And so house construction may not begin until late 2024, early, well, actually more like early to mid 2025 for the actual houses.
So they're not even gonna show up on tax roll until 25, 26.
Correct. More than likely. There's a delay there.
I'd like to add that, cost or increased pay is, important, obviously, to individuals, but I think there's also elements like benefits, culture, environment, all that, I think does play into keeping and retaining employees. So, and I know that's a city, that's city manager, and our new incoming city managers, would need to, figure that out. I'm not familiar with your benefits, maybe.
They're quite good.
Okay. Maybe having that discussion with the city manager, what the staff is, besides pay, in addition to pay, what is the other benefits to stay?
Yeah.
So we did just add longevity pay and we increased vacation accrual. So we have done some of that based on feedback from staff. So some of that is being addressed already. I think the big thing, what I found and kind of just speaking with people in my own experience is that it really kind of depends on where they are in their career, especially when they're earlier on. I mean, you're going to lose them eventually. You're probably not going to have someone stay in one place for 30 years, right? That people just don't really do that anymore. So I think the other thing is too, is trying to keep in mind a number of years in your head of how long you think you can really aim to keep somebody and what's realistic too. Because again, someone who's earlier in their career, yeah, I don't expect we're going to have them for 10 years.
Right, normally people don't stay around that long.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's not- but also like tuition reimbursement.
We have that.
we have
We
that.
have
things like
that.
that.
Our benefit package is
It's
so-
actually very, very good.
We can't.
Our benefits are quite, yeah, and but that's also been a challenge too. I mean, even to keep up,
The benefits of this.
yeah, are really good. But even like to keep up on the benefits that we have, I mean, last year, I think the increase was 16% on healthcare.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's.
Like I might actually work here.
I know, right, yeah. So, but that was a lot of cost to us that we had to absorb in 1 year without a lot of warning. So again, like we felt it was super, super important to keep people happy that we didn't dial back like their benefits or make them pay more for those benefits, but that's a huge hit to the budget.
So that-
Maybe we don't communicate it as well as we should to the employees. I mean, I think those are things we could do to communicate that better so they understand. If it's on their checks, but they don't really look at their checks and say, oh, this is pretty good, this is paid for everything. So all my help is good.
The benefits is huge. I mean, for me personally, my husband's insurance saved our, I mean, it was just a lifesaver and changed our life because of the benefits, and it can be life changing.
It's a big deal.
It's kind of amazing too, like sometimes, like with government, they can see like, they'll monetize all of the benefits that you have and then add it to your salary. So you're like, well, like, what's the real value of your salary? And then you can compare that to like private visits. And you're like, oh.
So Carol, maybe once a year, could something be put in with one of their checks or something that lists out all their benefits or all the extra things that they, yeah, the value of
I
their,
think a lot of people who have family health insurance coverage don't realize that the city pays over $2,000 a year over that.
Sure.
Yeah.
yeah, that would, might have an
It's on
impact.
their checks.
Yeah,
Like I said, but something.
Yeah.
We could probably maybe get something else.
Okay, great. So Phoebe, Kim?
Yeah, I've got a couple of political factors.
Okay.
So the Supreme Court's taken up that Grants Pass case around homelessness, so that should probably come down in 2024. And then the issue of recreational immunity will be addressed. That was mentioned at the city president and one of our representatives that is over in like the passive area, that has been a big priority. A lot of cities have reached out to legislators to get that addressed.
Okay, and then can you say that it was the parks
Recreational immunity,
recreational immunity?
and that does relate to park usage and the rest of liability of the city.
We have to kind of wait and see what the Supreme Court says and then be able to react and respond to the decision.
Yeah, do some.
What else in terms of just thinking about external? You want to talk internal? You can always add more to it if you. So what I'd like to do is, you guys have markers and Post-its in front of you. And so I want to just give you a couple minutes, and this is for staff and council. I want you to think about what's happened over the past year in terms of what good work has been done. You know, you can think about it from the department level or citywide. I want everyone to write down at least one accomplishment that they feel proud of from 2023, and then we're gonna, after you're done, we're gonna come put it up on the board. We'll have a couple minutes to do that.
Per piece of paper? if more than
Yes, one accomplishment per piece of paper, and you can write big, so people can read it. Do you want to write one down too? Yeah.
More than one?
Yeah,
Per
we can
sheet.
just do one. Yeah, you can do more than one if you want to. I want at least one. And when you're done, you can come up here, we'll put them up.
I don't know.
How much time do we have?
Well, I know, that's why I'm like, I don't know.
You got the good markers.
The scented marker.
Or great.
Isaac, you ever see anything online?
Yep.
No.
Yeah, I double checked it. There's on Facebook.
All right, and then whenever you have your Post-it done, feel free to come up and we'll put them up here.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big deal.
Such a happy.
kind of weird.
Right, I don't know. What else? An ARPA deadline extension.
And then if you're representing a department today, while you're waiting, I want you to write down kind of what your top priorities are that are in your department work plan for 2024. Maybe like one to three.
Still on the Post-its.
On the post-it, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
So if you're a staff member representing a department, just to give council a sense of like what's kind of coming down in terms of work over the next year, what are your top like 1 to 3 priorities for your department? And one priority per department.
Even if there's more of that.
That's okay. That,
So, yeah, I know, you know, from year to year, there's a lot of things ongoing, and that's okay.
I know, I'm cold.
You say one priority per department or first?
Sounds like you read.
1 to 3.
Oh, is she?
There are no pads over here, maybe no pattern. I'm gonna tell you, my daughter got the award.
That's the best thing to get.
She was so jazzed. She was so jazzed. Yes, it's so, she's just so happy. She's like, I got to stand up with the principal. Assembled. It was like, might as well get the president of the United States.
Run for perseverance.
Yeah,
I don't know if you guys are.
I think we're, yeah.
It came after us.
Yeah. That's what the, yeah, it's so great.
It is, honestly.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to put up their accomplishments? Anybody not add an accomplishment to the board yet? Okay. No, that's good. Okay, as you guys are adding what's in the priority for the next year, let's go over, look at this, it's colorful. So it's important to, you know, during council retreat and thinking about goals for the next year. I think especially in government, it's like, raise. Oh. Okay, so I know that when I was a public employee, like the sense of serving my community is really strong. It's like I don't do my job for the accolades or for, you know, thanks from the community. And so sometimes like you just put your head down and you just get the work done and you just keep going and there's constantly like changing priorities and community demands and, you know, just often just the landscape changing all the time. And sometimes we just put our head down, we do our work, just keep moving forward, and we don't take a break to just stop and reflect on what's been accomplished and celebrate. And that's important to just recognize like what a great team that you have and that you can do a lot with a little. And then also just like a positive tone and thinking about moving into the next year, what's been accomplished, and then thinking about, you know, with a positive outlook into what we can accomplish together as a team into 2024. So accomplishments in 2023, new voices on council, increased community engagement, so that's positive. Implement technology for efficiency, construct sidewalk projects, ARPA project progress, office efficiency, and assisting other departments, commitment to parks and recreation, plan development for the master plan, Completed the CDC study, CDC, CDC T study. What do you, CDC, yes, so CDC, what does that stand for?
Community development.
Okay. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just think of better person.
I had a feeling it was for this or, but sometimes, acronyms, I just want to make sure.
No,
it's for inclusivity, to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about
Yeah.
when we talk about.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. Okay. PD rehab, is that police department? Yeah, okay. Rehabilitation, okay. Parks master plan is mostly complete. Fuel tax projects, revitalization of police force, social media presence, increases in awareness in the community, land analysis to feed into overall community development, completion of housing capacity analysis draft, completion of economic opportunities analysis draft, fee adjustments, Earth Day events, Parks master plan, so it's like the third time that's been mentioned, so that's good. Lots of movement on that. Improved and more outreach and transparency. Is that correct? Did I do that correctly?
Yep.
Yes, okay, sorry. So improved and more outreach and transparency. Personnel policy manual update, ARPA deadline extension, basalt well permit, OMIC training center. That's where we are. Peace candle. I drove by today and I was just thinking about all of you. I was like, finalized master plan, stormwater and parks, increased social media and community engagement, supported Adventure Fest, Earth Day, and movies in the parks, all of those events. So that's great. We all like good acknowledgement of like all of the progress that's been made, and a lot of that is like important, like the plans and the analyses, and even honestly, like even the communication and the outreach, it's all really setting this really strong, firm foundation, and building community trust and community awareness and getting the information that you need to be able to move forward. So that's always really good progress. Yeah.
I'd like to add something too.
Yes.
We just talked to Alex has done a great job in working with the senior center and getting them, restructured, so.
Yeah, let's ask.
Very noteworthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, and then in terms of staff, did everyone get a chance to add? Okay. I got.
I didn't want to look in front of it.
That's okay. All right, so in terms of kind of what's coming from the staff perspective, what the priorities with their work plans are, so things that we, just be aware of as we're thinking about council priorities. So adoption of the 50-year plan and UGB expansion. So we're going on lots of work behind that. The police department, so retention, recruitment, and police interactions with community. Better presentation of financial information to council. Defining committee roles. The committee for
City committee,
like Parks
Rec
Committee.
and EDC.
Okay. Plan for staffing needs. So that came up when we were talking about things in all the upcoming retirements and just making sure that we have a good retention and retaining that institutional knowledge. Complete ARPA projects, stretch dollars. What does that mean?
That means make the most of what we have. I mean, that's one thing in public works that we've been working on extensively over the past few years is how to utilize our staff to do projects, how to just financial ways that we can be creative to save money. A lot of it is internal, just using our own people for projects that we normally wouldn't do. Granted, there's a lot of laws and things that we have to follow to do that. With Foley has restrictions on how much we're allowed to do and not. So, but anyway, just to being creative.
Yeah.
Laws in turn make it really fun.
Yeah, there's never especially in local governments, there's just not enough hands to do the work. So try to be as creative as you can to stretch that.
At the same time, they talk about technology. You guys are also looking out. What can we do now that will save us down the road. And then how do we find funding to do that? It's like with all the water meters, some we need to do citywide instead of one at a time, but.
Well, water loss over the past 5 years has been a huge emphasis on us, and we've captured 20% of the unaccounted water. And that's a huge income stream for us, and those meters play a big role in that, so.
Dave, can I ask you a question really quick on that? So have most of the leaks or the cause of the losses, in the extra term, been corrected, or is that something that gradually worked on?
Yeah, been positive.
Yeah.
Well, so when the problem was identified, we were hovering at 35%. We are now down around 12 to 15. So that's a substantial gain. You're gonna have loss regardless. You're never gonna hit zero. I mean, you have water theft. I mean, there's so many factors that you're never gonna have a perfect world. But we re-metered our treatment plants. We're still installing those meters. It's been a pretty big lift for us. There's still like 1,500 to get out there, which over the next 3 months. Our workload is very seasonal. We only have so many windows to do work like that. And the dead of the winter is where we're targeting for that kind of work. So we're gaining on it, I think, tremendously. And then evaluating the rates at the same time, and making sure that the rates are right sized to meet our needs.
How many gallons does that equate to? You're down to, say, about 15, 12% now in loss. Like, we're talking about millions of gallons.
We produce almost 400 million gallons a year.
Instead of treading water and just fixing the problem, you're trying to fix it out here so it doesn't happen. You're investing in that future now everywhere, so over time you'll save it. How do you get it paid for now? You have to find ways of funding.
Well, and we were, the ARPA has been a saving grace for the city because the meters were purchased on $100. So that was a no cost to the city, huge shot on our basically for us. So it's been great.
Yeah, that could have taken us, what, 10 years to replace them otherwise?
Yeah, we would have had to phase that into our budget. So we were able to just buy them all at once.
Right.
And the ongoing impact of the city would have been drawn out longer. You know,
Right.
So, yeah.
And we would have had a harder time getting into compliance with the state because they knew about the water loss and we had to get it down.
Okay. I wanted to add just a couple post-its from so some of the themes from the outreach, from the conversations that I had, I want to get those up there too. So I'm thinking about those when we talk about refining the goals. So, topic of being like just general connectedness in the community, like how do we think about that from a transportation perspective? So like accessibility with walkability or bikeability. Lots of conversations around Grabhorn, future of that looks like, and trying to take advantage of funding opportunities, recreation. Understanding the needs of each parks project and prioritizing them. Just having a clear plan of how to move forward with parks projects. Community engagement, continuing to focus on that. And the other one that I wanted to write down was public safety.
Are these the feedback points you got from staff interviews or from council interviews?
From council.
Okay.
Yeah, from council. So public safety, and then volunteering came up.
Can you elaborate on that volunteering?
Yeah, just like, like how do we partner with community members that want to give back? And so is there like an opportunity to share like where all the opportunities are? Like how can you get involved? Like where are the needs? And so maybe like there's part on the city website where it's like there's an opportunity like where you can get involved, not necessarily like specifically with like a committee, but like if there's other opportunities.
And what is the process? Because we also have to cover the work comp. Get volunteers.
Yeah.
So
I-
let's consider that.
I see a lot, there were a lot over there about community engagement, getting people involved, transparency, trying to get more of the community to see what we're doing so we can, they can understand what we're doing. And I think that goes into it too with the volunteering and the community engagement is we want to be able to communicate with all of our citizens. And if Grant Watts needs volunteers, why can't we put it on our website that here's a place, if you guys have some time and want to help, here's where you can go help. it just brings us all together. And they look at the city and say, that's where I go to get my information. That's, I can work with the city.
There's already a website for that. That council meeting that night I built it. We have a page, it's on the Facebook, it's put out there, so we can probably build on that. I think.
That's why I think your social media involvement this year, we've got better and better, and we're putting stuff out there, and we're following up, putting out meetings. I mean, we're really trying to get the community educated on what we're doing and why, and we have a lot of big items come up, and the more they know and get involved, the easier it will be.
And then one more, adoption of the Parks Master Plan. So that's going to be completed too. And that's going to be key with the prioritizing the parks projects, thinking about the future of grab one. Okay, so with thinking about this in mind, before we move on to goal refinement,
You missed a couple on that.
did I miss?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, thank you. Grabhorn, so discuss Grabhorn, thanks, Isaac. And then a DEI assessment, and then bargaining. And continue outreach. Okay. And then another DEI, so tell.
Right, second of those.
Can we get a little bit more clarity on what you mean by DEI assessment?
So obviously DEI is a huge thing. It's kind of coming up. We kind of suspect that eventually, probably in the short term, a lot of grants that we might go after are going to be tied to that. So you already see at the state level, pretty much all the departments have DEI goals. And so a lot of times when you see them try to affect those things, they do it through grants. So you might see on a parks grant that you have to have a DEI metric or talk about how you meet that. So it could be everything from how do we talk about people in a personnel policy manual, how do we solicit people to come work for us, how all kinds of things. So I think that would be to be developed because there's a lot of different assessments. I think you're kind of getting on, which that's really broad. So I think exploring that, because we haven't really done much. I mean, we've changed the language of the policy manual. We've done a little bit here and there. But I think setting the tone for the future, we're getting ready for that. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's not always just kind of what pops into your mind about those kind of buckets. It can be broader than that as well and more general.
Is that work that would require a consultant, or is that work that you're going to be able to do yourself?
I mean, we haven't really looked into it. I think there's multiple paths forward. That would be something. But typically, yeah, you do get a consultant.
I think you're probably going to need a consultant for that.
Yeah, you typically do.
What is the reach of DEI in terms of you characterizing it as, tying to potential funding sources?
I mean, it depends, right? I mean, if the grants we're going after require DEI components, we have to be versed in the language and understand what that means. And again, it's making us attractive as an employer and retaining people. We don't sample people right now about any kind of demographic information when they get employed. We don't know much about our staff, about who they are, what culture they come from, any of those things, and it goes all the way through.
That's all voluntary.
It is, but we don't even ask them. So we don't know, like for EEOC questions, I can't really answer them.
So are we, is this specific to recruiting and hiring?
I think it should be there, but it could be broader than that too. I don't, again, if we start seeing grants that we might go after that ask for how are you promoting DEI, if we don't have a foundation for that, how do we write that grant really competitively?
We have the ability to send out to all of our employees, just form this.
Yep.
This is how you identify yourself, because the system will actually track that
Yep.
and run the reports.
Right.
So that would give us at least a baseline internally of what our employees are being identified. So we could report that if we need. At least we give us something.
Yeah, we don't have to report quite yet, which is probably why we haven't collected it. But I mean, that was just an example of like from the very.
So.
Well, all right, well, I think so we know that the DEI assessment is a conversation about it that is coming, and the purpose of just getting that up on the board is to just keep it kind of in the ether here. It's like, that's coming, that's going to, require some staff time or, and just keeping that in mind. So what I would love, I was wondering, Isaac, if I could have a hand, if I could volunteer you. I want to move this over to the wall over there, and I'll help you. And then what I'd like to do, in your packet, you have a comprehensive update on your goals that staff put together and presented at the December 4th meeting. You also have a goal summary, update summary, where we tried to summarize that information too for a quick glance. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to shift into goal refinement. So the first step of that is to go through and we're going to look at the existing goals and we're going to be able to flag, okay, what's been completed? Is there anything that needs to be removed? Is it no longer relevant or no longer needed? Then are there any objectives that need to be updated or refined in any way? So we'll flag those and we'll have a discussion about those. And then finally, is there anything new that needs to be added to the list? So as you're kind of getting those things out, thinking, I want you to look at those, we'll go through that, and then also just use this for context too. So Alex, or Isaac, can you hold this? I'm gonna grab it. And then we'll go there. Yeah.
All our goals kind of in a nutshell.
Kind of like circle through here.
It just is a little, I'm like, I could do it myself, but it's just so much easier with a willing volunteer. So. Susan, do you want to help us make sure that we're even?
Yeah, when she looks at that.
Okay.
No, it's not. And we're gonna get.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay. You're kind of sexy. Okay, so just saying, in terms of keeping through and organized mentally, let's just go through the goals in order of what they are in the packet. So we'll start with the economy goal. And so just to remind you what this is going to look like, we're going to go through each goal and we're going to identify, is it complete? Does it no longer feel relevant or needed? And so it should be removed. Does it need to be refined and updated based on progress that's been made, or just kind of changes? Or is there anything else new that we need to add to this area?
That makes sense, right?
Yeah, and so I know in the past, sometimes you've done like small group work and then coming together. We're just gonna do it all together as a group here. So yeah, so let's start with objective 1.1. So the community branding. So you can see the progress that's been made there. So
In our last meeting, I think we put this on hold.
yeah. Oh, is it on hold?
There was,
Okay.
yeah, vote to
Great.
table it.
Okay. Okay, so.
And we did, by the way, CET did just get theirs all finished and there will be a meeting to the board to kind of give it out early and then everybody else will see it. So within the next couple of weeks, we'll at least see what they went through and what they got out of it.
Okay, great.
So what is unfolding then? So like if this doesn't become a goal, then we're not currently staff to continue work on it, right? So what is unfolding?
Oh, okay, that's a good point. Thanks for that. So the actual work of that RFP, we asked for on hold, but I don't believe that that means just the goal holistically is being put on hold. So it's, maybe it's not something that's gonna get addressed immediately. I think because there's other factors. There's a couple things that in Columbia County, we want to see what that readout is. I think we also, well, my perspective is I would like for us to also get through the onboarding of a new city manager so that they can have a perspective on this as well.
Did we put like 50,000
So are you gonna-
in the
so what's-
budget?
But they need to know,
we need-
you need to budget for it or not.
Right,
Are you
did we
saying to budget for it or
last
not?
year?
Yes.
So that theory's still there.
So,
Yeah.
We can take that.
But that's what we're at, but that's what they
We-
need to
we
know
would need
though.
to
is
know
You need to
what-
budget for it
yeah,
again.
do we
Can
need
we
to,
put that 50,000 into this year's budget? But it's on, don't do anything on it yet, it's tabled until later in the year. If we decide to pursue, there is money in the budget. Or do we take
Yeah,
it out?
but
of
So
the
we
also
would
budget?
need-
recall that depending on how you want to do this, that the 50,000 was not sufficient and every bid you
Yeah.
got was over it. So
yeah,
that's
so
the
the
other
average was
question too, like,
75 to 90.
so there's a good chance that if you go forward with the 50,000, that's not going to be enough to cover the actual budget for the project.
Yeah, the lowest estimate we had was 55, it was missing probably 30 to 35% of what we asked for, maybe more.
Then you could, the 50 that's in there from this last year, you put another 50 in for next year's budget. Now it's at 100. Or do we just take it out altogether and worry about it next
Well,
budget?
that's
That's
the
the
question.
question. And the other thing is like, how would we write the goal? Because we do report to you about what we're gonna do, how we're gonna do it. We build internal compliance, what are we?
Well, you
things,
just
know.
wouldn't write an action plan. You probably could just say it's table.
So
But waiting for the
I
direction.
would like to see something still in there because there might be something that comes out of the county work that we can leverage and we could have kind of a scaled down effort, right? If we say, you know, we're going to going in this direction and we're kind of refine it to be Scappoose specific in this way. It might not be as open-ended as kind of the work that we were asking for in the RFP, right? So I would like to at least put 50,000.
So please the 50,000,
Yeah.
that was there. I mean, that's-
Transfer it from this year's to next year's budget.
Yeah.
Maybe
Just
change the
continue
title
to-
to refine. Around this.
Going in, that we know that what 50,000 won't really buy us what we were asking for. But that's in there, and if later in the year we decide to untable it, we can then revisit the amount we need to add to it.
So the question is, if you know that you can't,
Yeah.
if you can't make progress on it in 2024, you're gonna have a goal on there to just hold funds. Is that more of just like an upward, like a decision point, or is it a goal? Yes.
As far as what the purpose of this discussion is and staff having an idea of what we want, we don't want, the way that I understand it, we don't want any work on this done by staff right now. We just want to hold $50,000 so that we have it later should we decide to re-engage on this project.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
So it's like retain funds and then.
Remove it as a goal, but have the budget reflect money available.
Can I ask-
Okay, I see, okay, Andrew.
Oh, just, I'm just curious how that would affect like, the any like EDC work on this, so that like staff wouldn't, if it's not a goal, staff doesn't work. So staff would support any work that you wanted to do on the thing.
Let's say arguably, you're also telling EDC not really to do
Yeah.
anything either, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
telling everybody to pause and
Yeah.
hold on. So I would say that it's nobody is doing anything with it.
Okay,
So what we can do is you can retain funds, keep it on hold, and then next year.
I'm a little confused.
I mean, this was coming out in 2 weeks, right? The county.
Yeah, I thought this was just for our city branding project, not, I didn't think that there was any connection to EDC, so I. can we
They
clarify?
want to have involvement in terms of like any kind of outreach to the public or any of those meetings that were built in. They wanted to act as the like stakeholder advisory committee to that project and you all told them they could do that.
But
so-
we're not impacting what they're working on internally with their branding fund. They have something else going on.
No, they
No,
don't.
it's all the
It's
same.
all the same.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Thing is, the budget's from what, June to June, July to July.
Correct.
But we're talking just what we're gonna do in 24. We could do this in February of 25. But we don't have money in it, this budget, we couldn't have.
Right.
So I like what you're saying, but how do we word it to where everyone's on the same page?
But I'll speak to Lori's perspective. Comments is maybe the way we want to go. Refine the scope of
Because
work.
like you're saying, if there is some way to use some of the momentum from the EDC's efforts, then potentially you're not gonna know that until that
Till
rolls
they-
out and further discussions occur. If the money's earmarked, you know, then we could, like you said, we could pick it up and turn it 2025 or something, or whatever that looks like.
And this kind of goes into the roles of the committee, right? That we're asking the committee, EDC committee to be a stake, like they want to be a stakeholder. We agreed in previous meetings that they would be. So they, with their help, we can develop this goal.
I mean, it's your goal, they're not gonna develop that goal with you, but, at the point that council's ready to move forward with that, then you could re-engage with them and let, you know, kind of direct how you want their involvement to be and what that goal looks like.
And that maybe it might not be, it might not be hiring a consultant. It might be taking whatever CPT and then applying it to Scappoose. And then maybe that 50,000 could be something like development of marketing materials, something like that.
Yeah, so that type of work can be taken care of in the refined scope of work and like further conversation. So right now, basically what staff is looking for is like, council, is this still a priority? Do we need to keep it on there? And what I'm hearing is that it is, but we just kind of want to put the pause button. We don't want to lose sight of it, but we're not going to be dedicating like staff capacity to it right now. So we're going to refine define the scope of work, retain the funds, and then build this capacity elsewhere.
Maybe the term is reprioritize that goal, maybe instead of it being like number one, I think you and I, talked, like, I was kind of like, can we get some sort of prioritization? That's just how it works, but maybe for the intermediate, like right now, it's not prioritized just one, until we get more information.
Yes, yeah, and that was a point of like question that came up, like, are these prioritized in orders of importance? No, they're not. Yes.
Alex can confirm, but I don't think that this order is necessarily by prioritization. I think it's just how it was established. I don't think that 1.1 is numero uno or priority, so.
Yeah.
One thing I always look at too, and I brought up, is I like the livability would be goal one, because everything about Scappoose is about livability. And that's kind of overreaching, and then within your livability of economy, infrastructure, safety. But that's, again, that's not, what this is, right? They're all equal.
Right now, they're on there. I can't remember if a prioritization exercise was done last year at the 2023. If the council has interest in doing a prioritization exercise on the goals that you come up with today, we can do that. But let's keep moving forward in terms of just what needs to be on the list. So I'm taking note that prioritization would be helpful. Okay, so let's go to 1.2. So this is around supporting and monitoring the development of the Columbia Commerce Center. We have an update on that.
This is a goal that I've been assigned to, over the last, I don't know, 5-6 years, in various ways. I'm neutral on this. We did discuss, should it stay on or stay or come off. This is just a part of our daily work. We do have weekly check-in meetings with the developer and contractor, who's constructing and working on the East Airport. So it is important work that we do, and it's something we do regularly meet on. So.
But you're not meeting because it's a goal, you're meeting because that's.
We're meeting because it's part of our
If there
work.
was a goal, I'll have
That's
to
correct,
explain.
and it's really, it's still on here because it's basically staff letting council know this does take, a portion of our regular workload and time to accomplish. We do expect also that now that we do have platted lots out here, and obviously we coordinate with Paul Vogel at CET on leads for development projects. This does take, a portion of staff time, and so it has remained on the list over the years. That's open for discussion. Should it stay? Should it go?
And then something, but just keep in mind, thinking about something that feels achievable, objective that's clear and actionable. So that was something that came up, like we want to have clear, actionable goals with like demonstrated progress. So it's like, and thinking about like what does success look like in this area. So just keep thinking about that.
So my comment is actually very related to that. So a lot of the conversations we've had, and a lot of the concern is we have so many goals and not enough staff and not enough time to get done. This to me doesn't seem like a good use of staff time. Things that are actionable, that are tied to deliverables, measurables, those are the things that I think we really need to focus on. Things that we actually want staff to try to figure out how to explain this, but I don't think staff monitoring something is a good use of staff time. I would rather see staff assigned to things that actually get bigger things, more accomplishments. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for done, but just having them spend their time monitoring something doesn't seem like a good use of.
We do it anyway, in other words.
Yeah.
And the thing is that this is a phased subdivision. It has 4 phases. So each phase has had specific actionable items we've needed to follow up on. Reporting phase 3 plat is where we're at right now. So there's a lot of touch points we need to have with the developer around those things.
Yeah, that's your job, and that would just show up on the department report, right? You
So-
see it on-
Correct.
So I'm piece of like having it on the council list of priorities. It's just like you recognizing like, yes, this is important work. We're prioritizing it. We recognize that staff capacity is going towards it.
I kind of like, thank you for sharing that story. And I think just sort of piggybacking on what Tyler's saying and also what you're saying, like it's gotta be measurable, actionable. Given that it does require staff time and you're stating that it's just part of the scope of work, and we would get a readout on it anyway. I don't know that it necessarily needs
I just, second that, but also my question is, and Lori, yes, thank you, because you said something that kind of I thought about, like, are these goals for staff to let, the council know this is what we're working on, or is the goal for council to, direct staff? So those are two different things. And if you already do this anyway, then they should be together.
Yeah, okay, so we heard from the
So-
Yeah, just to reiterate what Lori's saying, I mean, we're obligated to do this work regardless.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's gonna be completed within the next year. They're on their final phase of construction. After that, we're kind of hands off, other than permitting and different things for the building of the, whatever structures or whoever buys into it. You know, we're not salesmen of the property, we're not real estate, so we're gonna step away as soon as the infrastructure is built.
Is there anything by taking off as a goal though, if they ever come to us and ask for some financial support, money, hey, will you go halvesies on this part of it and help me with this? And get a goal, we can look at funding, or
I think we're beyond. that.
Yeah.
I mean, They're in their final phase. They received ARPA money to help build the infrastructure.
They've been given huge appropriations from the state.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would say in the past that some of the unusual work we did do for this particular project was dealing with those appropriations from the state because we had to act as a pass-through or things like that. Now that it's wrapping up, we don't really have a quote unquote atypical or outsized role like we used to, but there were years where it did require more time and effort. Now all of that money has been spent. So we're kind of taking a step back from it.
Yeah, in previous budgets, there was pass-through dollars
Correct.
that we had to
Yeah.
manage. That is done. We're actually out of.
I don't have a problem taking it off as a goal, we're gonna get updated, and keep doing it anyway, we're gonna get.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
see
to-
okay to remove from them.
Yeah.
But I think to Jeanette's point though, too, is that I think there's kind of a combination of things happening here. I think sometimes the things on the list, like the staff are suggesting, are things that are gonna take a lot of time and effort and
Right.
have a very distinct start and end point, and we want you to know about it so that you know what their capacity is to do projects. And then we also want to hear things that are a priority to you. So I feel like this list, it is the council goal list that gets adopted, but it's kind of a combination of those two things.
I felt you guys wanted it on there because that maybe gives you more ability to donate staff time to it, then great.
Correct.
I think we're fine.
Well, this goal morphed. I mean, when
It
it was
did.
originally
Yeah,
on
it
there, it was a promoted, let's,
Yeah.
as a city.
Yeah.
And these goals weren't always just staff. They were goals within yourselves as council.
Yeah.
Is to help promote this development of this thing when it started, but then it kind of evolved to, okay, look, how do we help this thing move along? And because we had money in our budget associated with things, we kept it, but in my opinion, we are on the tail end of this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hearing consensus on that. All right, so let's go to objective 1.3. Work with partners in small business to develop robust economic development marketing. So does this,
I think that was part of the sticky notes, right? That we need to continue to partnership ongoing.
Yeah, I'm
I see,
ongoing.
so I see a hand, so I would let, and then there.
I just noticed in the notes that staff gave, it says ask council for direction and if they want to keep this objective. When I first read it, I itched my head. That's what I do when I get kind of, it just makes me itchy. I don't know what it means. I don't know when there's an endpoint.
I do have some input on that. So I know that in the last, I think it was a year or two, we did a really robust industrial land inventory. Then we've taken that and the city put some money into a project with the Columbia River PUD and some of our other partners to put together an actual, like very nice economic development kind of booklet that will market the area and the land that's available that is included in the industrial. That list is actually getting put into the booklet and it's being prepared in a way that it can be updated easily and frequently over time. That's almost done. I saw a draft last I've seen of that. So between the list and that marketing materials, I think that's pretty much as close as maybe the city is going to get to probably marketing sites that are privately owned. Beyond that, yeah, I guess we are needing to understand what that means to you moving forward. We feel like we've done the most concrete things we could think of to make good on that, but right at this point, we're not really sure what to do with that.
Yeah, I don't know if people are trying, if council was hoping to promote businesses that are already here or try and incentivize people to come here and open a business.
Yeah, I like where you're going with that, so what would be an actionable?
Yeah,
right.
right.
That could be taken.
Is there any way though, like we relate, CCT is a partner of ours, does a lot of business. We do want to work with them, write letters of support, and we go, they bring in a solar panel company, we want to be, part of it.
That's not small business.
But is that, working with partners of small business to develop, I don't know about marketing, but does that fit in there at all?
I think it's maybe just a language change on this, because it will take staff time.
Yes, so I also saw Tyler's been waving in this.
I think a common theme that we have with this, and it goes back to how Megan started this too, is we need to be more specific on what we're looking for, because if I read this, it's what exactly does that mean? And then that should also help us get more actionable items and deliverables. But these things are too ambiguous. And I think if we focus in now, council too, I think everybody will be on the same page, and it will actually help us get things done quicker if staff actually knows what it means that we're asking for.
Yeah.
But that would help.
That would be helpful.
One, we put in our.
I would recommend, when I go to the detail in our package of 1.3 goal at the bottom, 12, it says list of remaining steps and actions needed to complete. I pretty much agree with almost all of these bullets underneath it. I do get to Tyler's point, which is what's more actionable. So continue to complete, widely distribute, maintain industrial market brochure. I mean, I think that maybe is, to me, when I read that I envision that being more embedded in day-to-day operations. So it's hard to remove it. Distribute the videos. I know those are like almost complete. So that's something that check. The nominate favorite local businesses. I don't know if we've gotten to that point yet, but maybe, I think that's like sub action, like something we can try to create more community involvement. Like, I think this has developed. So I like these recommendations under here, and we can maybe as a group say, okay, out of these 6, let's all align on 3 of them. Then we can move it forward. That would be helpful.
So if it needs to be refined to be a little more actionable in terms of what the next step is. I'd like to hear from the rest of council.
So I think that, as Marissa said, a lot of these things are getting checked off. I'm wondering, Isaac, you do the small business spotlight in the,
NJ does that.
oh, sorry, no, NJ does the small business spotlight. I assume he would continue to do the small business spotlight because it's been created. So I guess, like Marissa's saying, are there any bullet points that we think?
And I think something that's helpful, I see, right? Something that's helpful me thinking about is like, what's the outcome here? What does success look like here? And then how would you direct staff?
Do you want them to create a process for nominating a local business? That's not in place, so do you want that, right? That would be the goal, right? Yeah.
I agree that we need to define this, and I think we might have a chance later on with the breakout.
No, we're going to define it. We're
Right
defining it right now.
So, I think there's some of these bullet points, we can developing, how we select a small business. I think it can be an EDC task for the committee. I mean, that's what they do, that's their committee, and they're ones that are out there. It doesn't have to fall all on staff, and then they give the recommendations or have some type of list of what they're working off of. Because with that, I would like to see, like, I know that there has been businesses that have been featured on the website. Is there any feedback, any follow-ups with those stories, and because they were featured, is there any success? So that there's a lot on staff. I think it can be on the committee side. I think they will enjoy it.
I think the question here is, what do you want to direct staff to do in this area to move this forward? I think that's really what they're looking for.
Just quick feedback is, I do believe we did ask EDC if they wanted to be the one to select businesses, and they asked staff to do that. So
They did.
When we started this program, we went to them and said, hey, we've heard that, this has been talked about. Would you like to participate in selecting businesses, writing this, doing follow-up, like kind of these things you asked and they sort of declined. That doesn't mean you can't direct them to do that.
Do you think it's, sufficient if it's removed? NJ will just continue to look at our business directory and pick a business?
Yeah.
I mean, if we're not getting
It's gonna keep.
committee support, then, to pick a business, then he just is gonna keep continuing to randomly pick businesses and they'll be
Yeah.
featured.
Yeah,
So-
well,
so
I do like.
I mean,
your-
not so random, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do like the concept though that the community might nominate. Now, whether they participate and there's enough traction to where we can actually use their recommendations, I don't know how much response we would get. We certainly could try something like that. I think that's kind of fun. But
So I want to keep us moving, and I'm not hearing a strong.
I'm gonna
sense right now in
ask to
terms of,
delete it.
Like, that there's something actionable for staff to do here. I'm not hearing like a strong sense that this needs to stay on.
So I'm with Megan in this.
Okay.
So to Megan's point, it's like we keep running into things that are more like standard operating procedures that are just already done. I think going forward, we just need to be mindful of what is a goal and what is a standard operating procedure? What have we started to do as a result of these goals over the last several years that is now a standard operating procedure by staff? And how do we just implement that as more of an SOP than it being a goal? Because it doesn't really seem appropriate that a lot of these things are goals by council because they've become SOPs by city staff.
So I think, this is a good point. So we've gotten through the 3 objectives here. So, and we're coming up on a break on 10:40. So I want to have a conversation around what would council like to see added here in terms of the priorities. So for, thinking about what's happening in the community, what's kind of in the pipeline for staff, and as council, like, we really are the ones that are in touch with community members and what their needs and desires are in the future of the community. So is there anything here that we need to add to put on staff's plate for the next year so that they can plan a budget in their department for work plans?
Right.
I see they say maybe.
I was, I asked them to still work with CET and Columbia River PUD and Board of Columbia County. You guys helped me. We did a magazine article. You guys spent a lot of time writing stuff and helping me. Doing a news thing on Monday, and you guys just spent staff time helping me put stuff together. Is that the standard operating procedure, or is that within the goal? So
Yeah.
you feel that I can ask.
We would take advantage of any kind of opportunity like that.
We have a fundraiser or thing here, and businesses are coming, and you guys, we feel it's important that we have presence. That's not part of the goal.
Yeah, sorry, maybe you should have a hand up first.
So if we're gonna remove it, I would like to see some, direction for the CET, I'm sorry, not the CET, the EDC, to be working with staff on it.
But they don't want to.
They don't want to.
But if you just said if we direct them to do that, that's.
We've asked them to do things in the past and they choose not to. You can ask
can-
that.
Also, just in terms of like, I'm not hearing like a strong sense from council, of like, we want, this is a body of work that needs to get done. This is a goal, like, this is an objective that we're working towards, or some sort of like success or progress in this area.
Well, I think it's important because we need to support our businesses and local businesses and not just the big companies that are coming with solar panels, but also the small businesses.
It sounds like it's work's gonna get done either way.
Yeah. The small
So,
business spotlight will
yeah.
continue.
So is there an
regardless.
additional project or priority that council wants to, like, specifically, like, so we're at the point where we've looked at existing objectives, so is there anything that you want to add for staff in thinking about it?
You just said to look up here, so we're talking about economy and I'm just wondering where, I mean, we're talking about, someone had mentioned the hotel, some people had mentioned increased staffing costs or urban renewal district. Does that go under goal number 1 in terms of economy, or is that more community livability with urban renewal? Or
So we can figure that out when we refine with staff.
Okay.
I think the most important part of the discussion today is just getting that like consensus from council on like, these are our priorities for the year. So if it's around urban renewal district.
So where
or
would, like,
hotel.
in your opinion, Lori, like something about urban renewal, I mean, that's getting looked at no matter what.
Honestly, I think that's more economy. For staff, it feels more like it would fit within economy because it,
So what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And what would you have that goal say in terms of?
I mean, it really is like an exploration, right? But then at the same time, you guys are gonna be talking about that, February 20th.
Well, everything
So we're
happened without a goal.
already exploring urban renewal, so we don't really need to make it a goal.
Although
Well, I think it-
I would
Okay,
back
so-
up on that
yeah.
because that could take a lot of work. If you guys decide to make a lot of changes,
Yeah.
that's going to
Let's
take a
bring
lot of
business,
staff
urban
time.
renewal.
If we say explore it, now they're gonna have to spend a ton of time doing that.
We might explore and just say this one only, and then we may explore and say, no, let's look at the whole district. Let's explore
Right,
it.
So there's something around urban renewal. How do you make it actionable?
Right.
What does success look like? How do you, because staff wants to be able to show progress and movement on it. So,
Steps to analyze opportunity.
and we don't,
Financial opportunities within assess, analyze the financial impacts of urban renewal district, the urban renewal district.
Changes to the urban renewal district, really, because, and do we need to allocate funding? I mean, if we're gonna open that boundary of the district up beyond Cascade,
Then yes,
Then
but you're
that-
also looking at probably just using urban renewal funds for that at the
Yeah.
end of the day, but yes. So you're gonna need to put that in the urban renewal budget.
Yeah.
And it is gonna take quite a bit of time.
Yeah.
all right,
So-
so if that's a big, assess changes to urban renewal district, what's the outcome? What does success look like?
Well, see, but that's the thing, right? Because until you do the analysis, you don't know
So
which
we
way you're
just-
gonna go.
So
you're
you have a
really,
report.
so you're really talking about, yeah, you're really coming up with options
Okay.
and then.
All right, so I'm hearing a lot. I'm hearing a lot of voices, which makes it kind of hard to facilitate. And so also, just, we didn't talk about this earlier, but just a general rule, I don't like to do wordsmithing in public, because it just gets messy. So what we can do is we can get like the essence of what council wants. And then as a follow-up to the retreat, our team will work with staff to refine those actions. And then we can look at those further before they go to council for adoption. Okay, let's have one more comment and then let's.
Could you just take a second, kind of walk through how we're gonna do this though, because I know we're on refinement, but at what point are we gonna talk about new goals? Because some of that may overlap, and it'd be nice to know how you're gonna implement the new into this. Because I don't know how much, I'm a cut to the chase kind of person, so like for me, 1.3, is there a desire to keep this and refine? If so, let's move on, and then maybe when we get to the tail end, we come back to it. I don't know, I'm just spitballing, because I'm not quite sure where we're gonna go to get the new goals that council is desiring.
Yeah, so what I'm proposing is that we go through each of the existing like objectives for each goal, and then we figure out, okay, if those things are on hold or removing or wherever we need to refine it, then what other new priorities need to be added to the list? Once we do that, then we move on to the next goal area.
So it just seems like to me at this juncture, we would just want to know, is there a desire to keep this on the radar or not, and move on. But
Yeah.
You're grouping them one at a time, compartmentalizing.
And that being said, don't pay too much attention, like if these things shift,
Yeah.
that's okay. This is the way that the current structure of the 2023 goals are. So if that needs to shift a little bit, like maybe there's only like one thing over here, whatever, we'll move those things around and refine it.
I do have one question for Lori about, is there an intersection with the urban renewal district and the boundary at all? Like, will any of that new land that we may be acquiring be impacted or affected?
No, not unless you put it in the district.
If we're not expecting, yeah, exactly.
Because the urban renewal area can only be about, I think it's 25% of your total acreage. So the only thing it could possibly do is you get more acres and you could make the district bigger,
Right.
but that's it.
Okay, so that those two are not.
Correct. Correct.
So before we break, are there other new proposals for new additions that we need to? Yes.
Have we covered the issue of opportunities to increase revenue? Has that been explored and we're done with that? After this year, it was in black.
So one of the things we did to address that last year was we did the CDC fee study. And so we did, as a result, increase planning and some engineering fees.
But do you feel, because I'm hearing from Dave and a variety of department heads, is there anything else that we need to keep looking at or do?
we, at least on the public works side, we continue to do that as part of our daily job.
Sure.
I mean, that's not something we're doing
So we've
extra special
exhausted,
because it's on the goal list. That's just an obligation we have as staff, is to fund these projects and be as efficient with our dollars. as we can.
so by increasing those rates and other things, we've exhausted that outlet.
I don't know, I mean, for my department, we have, but not as a city as a whole, I'm not sure what that looks like.
Well, and also though, I think
Hold on,
that
Tyler has
the
his hand.
increase
Tyler has
is-
his hand up.
okay,
Increase business funds.
we did, yeah.
So on that topic, it seems like we really need to do a more global analysis of where we're at, because if we are always operating in the negative when we're not making up what our costs are, that's gonna cause a major issue for the city. Yeah, at some point.
So
whether
a
that's
goal to
next year.
analyze our,
Exactly. I think that a goal, my
Financial.
proposal is that, council have a goal for a whole assessment to see where we're deficient, where we're not coming up to what our costs are, and come up with a plan to get to where we're at least covering our costs.
So I feel like, I mean, we've done recent rate studies, we're doing that with utilities. But, you know, even with, but it becomes a little bit more complicated, I think, conversation and policy discussion when it comes to things like the community development center. So even with the increases we just did, I think you guys elected to do like 50% of cost recovery or 75%. Okay. So you're still not at full cost recovery there, right? Because there was the discussion at that point that some amount of essentially subsidizing, right? People to come in and build things and, you know, start businesses was worth that, right? So there's still some of that political discussion. If you do full cost recovery on everything, sure, we might be in a little bit better financial position, but then is that going to be a turnoff to certain industries or businesses or sectors, et cetera? So like I said, we are at full cost recovery on utilities and things like that, you know, are basically our enterprise or business funds where we are actually needing to make that, you know, make the exact amount we need to get by. But then with general fund stuff, you're talking about departments that are going to always be behind the 8 ball and losing revenue essentially.
Yeah, I just think that one of the biggest embarrassments for a council and any sort of government is undercharging and not preparing and not being financially situated where you can replace things like infrastructure. I mean, we heard over and over again at the city county dinner about Class and I's. It's a terrible situation. Yeah, where their infrastructure is failing and they don't have the money to replace it. So I think there needs to be, I think one of the goals needs to be is due diligence on, we need to at least have a really good view of where we're at in terms of all those things that you just said on paper and figure out if there's a way to be able to get us up to as close to full cost recovery as possible. Otherwise, we're gonna screw the rest of council in the future and city management if we don't think about these things now.
And to be honest, we're still kind of crawling out from under some underfunding that happened in the past that we're still kind of trying to make right.
Yeah.
So it's a good point.
But we did that without a goal, though. We did that because we said it was time to do that.
Oh, yeah,
We
no,
didn't
I
do
mean,
that again without a goal.
but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have a goal, but I'm just saying like, yeah, like, sure. I mean, we're always going to be looking to recover what we can. And in terms of infrastructure too, I bear in mind also that we've really been bending over backwards to do that without taking on any debt, right? We haven't issued bonds in like almost 30 years. I mean, you're talking about a very, you know, an organization that's been run very lean. So I think we are coming up to a place where that might have to be on the table too, is discussions of debt and bonding and certain things for certain impacts. Now, we've been able to kind of push that off with that almost 14 million we got in ARPA funds, but that's where you're getting at this point, is that soon you're probably gonna have to talk about that.
Right, and my point being, or supporting this, is if we wouldn't have gotten that 14 million ARPA, which was a miracle, basically, we would have had to probably issue a GO. So
Sure.
I think that it's extremely important that city management and city council have a very thorough understanding of where our deficits are as far as what we have coming in and what we have going out and long-term capital replacement projects. Otherwise, we're going to get into a bad situation in the coming years.
So I'm capturing this here for future discussion, for fiscal stability, maybe analyzing funding mechanisms. I know we're overdue for a break. So I'm gonna let Dave say his comment and then we're gonna take a 10-minute break.
So just to touch on what you're saying, as far as our infrastructure, we're not in dire straits. And if you go back through the past several years with our master plan updating, our P analysis and stuff, I think we're sitting in a pretty good position. Those utilities that are based on charges for services, I'm not overly worried about. Where you need to focus is the general fund. That's the one that's, in my opinion, going in the rears. Our wet utilities, they're honestly not in a bad position. After we come out of these ARPA projects, we're gonna be taking on some debt to complete them, but we're still, I think, gonna be a little bit ahead of the curve. I mean, obviously, the city deferred way too long on maintenance of projects. They didn't do rate increases, they didn't do that. So we are playing catch up to that, but we're not in a bad way. Just because you heard that about Pat's tonight, doesn't mean that we're quite in that same bucket. Everybody's behind the curve. You have to rebuild an entire city's infrastructure every 50 years when it comes to pipe, every 20 years when it comes to a treatment plant. So planning for that is critical. And over the past 7 years, we've been working really diligently to get to that stage. So I'm not losing sleep over those things, but as far as your general fund, I think that's where you really do need to focus, because that's your parks, that's your police, that's your things that are gonna slowly sink you because of the tax increases being preset, so.
All right, it's 10:49. Let's come back at 10:59. And then we're gonna look at community livability, okay?
Oh, yeah, there's.
Something
So before we just jump into it, I just want to kind of reorient so around what we're trying to do today. So thinking about the role of council work and council priorities. So the role of this time together in these goals is to set direction for staff. So you're telling staff what you want them to work on. In addition to all of the daily duties and things that they always do, like keep the lights on and infrastructure running and all of those things, and, payroll. So these are like things that you feel like, we want to put an asterisk by this work because we want to prioritize it and get it done. So when you're thinking about that, I want you to think a little bit more about what the outcomes or what success looks like. And thinking about like what would be the purpose of having it as a goal. And then staff would work with that, and we can refine that with staff, and then that gives staff the direction that they need to develop a work plan, an operational work plan to implement the direction that you set. So thinking about it with these goals, really focus on that what, and then staff takes that and they figure out the how. Okay. All right. So moving on to community livability, there's 3 objectives here. So we'll go through those. And as Dave mentioned earlier, just in terms of process, then we can talk about what are there other, new ideas or new proposals that would fit under this area. Also, as you notice, I left some space over here. So if they're like, when we're thinking about any sort of new ideas, maybe they don't necessarily fit under one of these established categories. That's okay. That's what this whole process is for. So then we can rework that, put anything additional over here. So, okay, so objective 2.1, continue the development of the 50-year plan. So the progress that was made completed the other land needs analysis, and then there's been significant progress on the urban growth boundary analysis, comp plan updates, development code updates. So we know this is happening. We know there's an interest in UGB. This is ongoing, and it kind of needs to stay. Yes, Britt.
So on the sheet in here, we do have sort of some recommendations. So we had a recommended language change for this one to just state complete 50-year plan. This does require a lot of staff work, like significant amount of work. So I do recommend it stays on with that language change. And it also does direct quite a bit of resources money-wise.
How does council feel about that?
I'm aligned.
Okay.
It should be done this year, right?
Okay.
Yes, we're moving to adoption hopefully this year, but then Columbia County also has their own separate adoption process that we would need to go through.
I have a clarifying question. So Lori, in the list remaining steps and actions on page 6 that are needed to complete this project in the coming years, so within that complete the 50-year plan, we will continue to look at urban reserves and urban growth boundaries. So it doesn't need a separate goal. It is included, or
That's
looking
correct.
at urban growth is in that.
That's correct. That's part of the plan. That's right.
Okay. Great.
Since you said that we were adding new ones, right? And we're taking the ones that we were suggested to here, even though they're not there yet. I'm just wondering, where does the DEI fall in? Wouldn't it fall under economy? as well?
So that it kind of depends. So is it a council priority? It's something that staff is going to be working on, but is it a direction that you want to set? It's like, yes, council, this is really important to us. We want to make sure that it gets prioritized for staff, the staff resources.
I think they want to make a separate goal.
There's the,
Separate goal?
that's a proposal at the end.
Okay, number 6.
Yeah, but that's only if council has consensus or majority that's like that, something that we want to add.
Okay, I wasn't sure where we're at.
Okay, so I'm just gonna make a note here so we don't. Okay. All right, so 2.2, promote community events to increase attendance. A lot of work's been done in that area, but like thinking about the, what the outcome of that or what success looks like in that area, what can the city do?
I like
Continue
that
that work.
some of the promote community events, but the Venture Fest obviously isn't going to be happening this year, but we are supporting in several other smaller events.
Yeah.
From even the Who Bills. I mean, but do you have specific are there specific things that we're staff, tasking staff to do?
Yeah, so
moving forward?
we propose to kind of put 2.2 and the old 2.3 together into this one goal, to kind of put all of those little kind of outreach things we do into one box.
Oh, 2.2 and 2.3.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so Adventure Fest, as we all know, is no longer an event. We don't really have a city event anymore, and that was kind of the direction we got. So we did also understand that you wanted us to keep promoting community events generally, so we kind of thought that that kind of went along with outreach and the attracting impacts of social media, kind of all that together as one goal.
I'm seeing head nod.
Yeah, this is another.
Okay, so we can combine 2.2.
Some of it is.
2.3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there enough there that you need specific?
No, a lot of this stuff is routinized. I mean, I've got contacts with the library and all the people doing the events. I talk with Janet all the time, doing the outreach. The tracking is back end, Facebook tracks that stuff on its own. It really is something that happens. And now the community knows that they can contact me or the city and say, hey, can you help me with this? And the answer is, yeah, we can put this on the Facebook page. So it's really routine now.
Is there something additional that council would like to see staff doing in this area to further enhance community livability through events or outreach?
No, I mean, I agree, but I would like to, maybe we can add the verbiage or somehow support nonprofit organizations and other organizations in the community. So maybe like that would cover all of the, community, what is that one called, Scappoose Community Club and the senior center, and so it just, they're all nonprofit or community organizations that we're going to support anyway.
Okay.
What does that support look like?
Yeah, so that's the
Yeah.
same question. So with council goals, try to be, we always kind of like cautiously like words like monitor, support, like what exactly does that mean? Because staff is looking for like really clear direction in terms of like, what does that look like? What do you want us to do?
Help support, a lot of the organizations come to council and they let us know, and they're like, oh yeah, staff, can you put it in the city website? And they said, okay, we can do that, and just help promote.
So it's like promotion or advertising or?
Well, with that, we have the community enhancement program grant project where we do fund nonprofits with grants, and we want the city that's come right out of our money. So we still want to promote the CEP and promote urban renewal grants.
Maybe it's coming
I'd like to put the senior center back on as an official goal. We've decided to sort of manage their spending. We allot $20,000 in our budget to them every year. And we are cautiously entering back into the arena of giving them funds. I'd really like to see, and I know that, they don't have an executive director, but we've decided to fund them. And I think we've learned that we can't just write them a check and expect those things to happen. So I think it's going to take some staff time, or at least city council's discretion of going over bids from them before projects occur. I think that we really need to, just because someone in a meeting says that they have a standard operating procedure in place does not mean that that is actually taking place. That there needs to be a lot more accountability of the functioning of the senior center, considering we're investing tens of thousands of tax dollars into it. And I know there's a lot of community members that question that. And so I would like to see the senior center be an official goal, because I think by choosing to carve out that amount of money in our budget, we need to be very diligent about how those funds are being used and how they're functioning and operating without a manager.
Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of people want to weigh in.
So this was on my radar too. I think that the senior center should be back, and I think the points that I would like staff to focus on is obtaining their policies and procedures, reviewing those to make sure that the city doesn't have any issues with those. Their bylaws, making sure that their bylaws are done. These are all in context, just so you know. The senior center was a complete dumpster fire. DOJ got involved. It was a big ordeal. The city has been supporting them and trying to get them on the same track so they can restart bingo, because they were told that they had to stop until they met certain things. And so now we want to make sure, this is a conversation last council, we want to make sure that they have that stable foundation and that they do actually have bylaws, that they are actually training their members, there's redundancy there. I think there's probably 3 or 4 different categories that council will be interested in. Staff specifically monitoring and reporting back to council to make sure that those things were actually completed so that we do feel comfortable funding them.
Well, I would say one thing on that, as far as the bylaws, they have them, but out of the assessment, it was clear that they weren't super clear. And so one of the recommendations was to get legal counsel to actually redo the bylaws.
Yeah.
So a lot of that already has been done. There are recommendations in that, report that came out from PSU. Now, then again, I think I would also caution though, that to some extent, they may or may not be super receptive the more we get into the weeds. I mean, I know that there's funding on the line and maybe they'd be okay with it, but it is a separate legal entity. We don't necessarily have, a right to just reach into whatever we feel like. So there could be some things to think about there in terms of how they're going to be receiving this.
Well, I just wanted to piggyback on Jeanette's request for the support when you say like community club and things. I think it would be good to elaborate if you're meaning financial things or not, because there's a lot of interactions that staff has, me personally, especially. I attend community club meetings when they ask, when they feel there's something relevant to the city and I will come sit with them. I text regularly with the Historical Society with their requests. When it comes to like Christmas lights, public works crews are out there transporting and setting those up for them. So there's a lot of interaction with those folks now. So I think clarity on what you're asking would be good. I communicate with the library on a regular basis to help facilitate any of those park events and things. Even work with the Little League regularly to make sure that the fields are ready to go. So there's a lot of interactions, and I know that we have limited chance for dialogue. That's what's great about the state. I mean, because in a normal council setting, we don't really get to have these little chats. And that's why I like tours too, because that gives us a couple hours of spending together to talk about, so that you guys are educated on kind of the things that are going on the back end that you don't normally get to see in a council setting.
So before we talk, this kind of came up too, let's just get a little bit more clarity on what this looks like. So can I hear maybe 30 seconds from each council on what that looks like, they're gonna decide where it's gonna say. So.
I'm in agreement to find 2.2 and 2.3. The outcome that I would like to have is just as we're promoting, what's the metrics on our efforts that we're promoting in the different channels. So if we're putting stuff on social media, what's the analytics coming back in terms of tips or whatnot. I mean, that's how we do measure how we're supporting the promotions.
Okay. Yeah, so if, I think we certainly need to budget for the support of these events. There's a lot of, police resources that go to the park and, even you guys have a birthday, right? There's a cost to that, right? So we do need to account for all of that in the events. And then if we do give, people money, like we gave, this new event, like $10,000, I would like to see that have some strings in terms of like a recap. How many people, what was the reach, what was the promotion, how many people came, just so staff to capture a little bit of data from those events that we are offering financial support.
And the goal would be for transparency and accountability.
Yeah, so a little bit, so we need to obviously have carve out the budget for supporting those events, right? Both in terms of staff time, but also granting money. And then once that event is completed, having staff gather that information. I don't have anything to add other than the word fund, I guess, is what I'm hearing from people.
Yeah, I'm good with, I actually like the metric that 2.3 is using anyway, like it's everything from attendance to just number of events, and I think that those are all helpful things to go back all.
The only thing I like to continue to promote community events, but they're also and interact with community groups. So you are working with, the groups, community groups, the library, is there something else there, just adding something, support or support community?
That's okay, that works.
So promote community events, how are you gonna promote it? You can buy flyers and send them out, you can put them on the internet, it's
So,
all vague, but I want us to support the CEP with our urban renewal grant, if you go into those groups, little league, big. Work, how are we giving you the ability to work with?
let's just checking with staff. Do you feel like that's enough direction here on this point? Promotion, continue to promote, get some more analytics and data to figure out if it's being effective, if we're getting the reach that we want. We know that we continue to budget staff resources and funding for the events. When I kind of think about reporting, what's the return on investment? And then more interaction with community groups. Do we have anything to add here?
I have a question about the analytics piece. When you're talking about if we're giving an event funds that you want analytics back, which makes sense. But like, for example, with the change in Adventure Fest, we've already agreed to give them 10,000 with no communication or instructions that we want those analytics back. So would that apply to that event? And then going forward, then that's the strings attached, and that would be easy enough to do. But since that 10K has already been promised, what are we doing with that?
Yeah, I would say, it's really, I mean, we could ask.
Yeah,
if they would do it,
yeah,
but,
yeah.
you know, we can't-
And then to the extent that obviously they will do it great, if they say, well, we don't have the bandwidth to do that, will we withhold funding?
I'm on the committee, just ask me, I'll get it. I'll get your receipts, I'll show
Okay.
you.
But that's all I'm getting at, though,
I'm not
right? Like,
pushing
how hardcore are we gonna be about this? Like, if the event's like, oh, we're just small potatoes and we can't really track that stuff, are we gonna give them money anyway? Like, that's all.
Because I know they don't have a really elaborate financial system.
Right.
Library, they just don't.
Right.
So it's a real tough for them to give us really good analytics. But
So-
it's not wasted too.
We could identify a few metrics, right?
Yeah.
Identification is easy to getting them to comply. How do we incentivize compliance? Because they could say no. The question is, if they come to you and say, well, we can't do that, we won't do that, are you gonna say no to giving them the money?
At
Because
this point, no, I would say at this point, we've already committed, but perhaps for the go forward, we need to have a baseline of, and we expect a report back, and we would like to see these data.
so that we do have that, some of that, we'll see.
We could do that with the.
With the community.
Would you do that with?
Just follow our rules, so. we have to see this.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, this isn't the world in which I live, but annually, don't these organizations apply for a grant for you guys anyways, and aren't they already receiving some funds? I know the Little League told me they were awarded by council some.
Through the
things,
CEP
so,
program.
yeah. I mean, so in a way, you guys are already doing this.
For all them, we do.
I just don't know if are you trying to rise above what you're already doing, like this role, or?
And in addition to that, it's like, so what's the outcome of like doing the additional reporting? Are you supporting your goal of enhancing community livability?
And just kind of on the 10,000 for the festival. I think that Jeff's already asked, he and I have communicated that. He specifically asked me not to send it until we're going to talk again in February, because he said he wants to make sure he has other donors and other sources to complete the festival, which I thought was, that said a lot to me. He said, don't do it right now, because we're going to pay us immediately. And he said, I don't want it right now, I'm just going to do it later on.
All right, so I think just in the interest of time, I'm just gonna try to encourage the group to move on. I think that we have what we need there, we can continue to refine. Senior Center, we had a little bit of discussion there, but I'd love to hear the rest of council weigh in on if that needs to be something added, so following our rules, for success.
Or Megan had it
Megan,
first, but.
Go ahead.
Oh, I want to go back to, I think, Alex had a good point that I was thinking about on the senior center. I fully support a goal around the senior center, but I do want to be careful about overreaching. I just don't know that it's our role to like oversee it. It is a standalone nonprofit, right? But certainly we can require certain things for funding. But I just want to be really careful about like a huge list of requirements, which is not.
I completely agree, and I do think that it needs to be up there because the mayor makes decisions based upon these goals, liaison positions, and I would like to see a liaison position remain for the senior center. Currently, Alex is also, during all of this process, she attends all of the meetings. So I think that that's something to ask of the next that was something that council literally put in her contract, was to attend an outside situation like this. And so she picked the senior center. That was the need. And so some accountability to the next manager, or I said I was going to throw him under the bus, Isaac, somebody who is still a staff member that is attending the meetings in addition with the liaison.
All right, we're from two. Other counselors want to weigh in on whether or not senior center.
I would like to.
Marissa? I'm seeing it, no.
For the senior center, having senior center, sorry, it was.
That's okay.
Yeah, I would prefer that it be on there too.
All right, I'm seeing consensus. All right, so before we move on to our next area, is there other
I have
items?
one thing. I
Yes.
think this falls within cumulativity out of all the categories up there. We don't have a mission statement as far as I'm aware. Does the city have a mission statement? It's not on the website that I saw anywhere. I would like to see us focus on a mission statement, because usually an organization's mission statement is you have that and you work backwards from there. And your mission statement is basically who you are, your values, all of that. And all of your goals and your daily operations are really embedded in the core of your mission statement. We don't even have a mission statement.
Is that so?
I've seen, I've seen some of them at least. I mean, I haven't gone out and did a comparison about, which do you.
And that's different
So
than the
there's a
vision
couple,
statement.
yeah, there's a couple, to Megan's point, there's a couple different ways that you can do it. So a lot of times cities will have a vision statement, something like directed from council, like where we want to see the community go. When you're thinking about like mission, you just have to figure out like, okay, what's the scope of the mission? What are we talking about? Because is it like the mission for the organization? Because as city manager, like executing the council goals, excuse me, and like managing the operations, like the mission of the organization, and what does working in the organization feel like in terms of values of that? So maybe it's just different. Other counselors weighing in on?
Are you proposing like a goal around that?
Yeah, that we come up with a mission statement, and it could turn out that the mission statement is more of a vision statement, but I think it's something that we should visit, because, or like I said, organizations, their daily operations and everything that they do is usually centered around their mission or vision statement. It's a great guiding, like of the term.
Okay, I'm hearing him say that it's more of an operational mission statement, but isn't the vision statement and all of that refinement coming out in 50 year, some of it?
That's really focused on land use
Yeah.
specifically. We have an existing vision statement for the city as a whole.
But we had talked about maybe redoing that once the 50 year was complete.
And that would be an option. That would be up to council. The previous vision statement, I believe it was completed in 2016.
Yeah,
with
by
the
a committee.
by
Yeah, with
a committee,
counselors on it,
Right,
yeah.
so is it time to redo that? I don't know, that would be this time.
As businessman, yeah, mission, I think this is something we can work in with Brandy and when we determine our mission. Here, the mission of Hampton County government is to provide quality public service in a timely and competent manner, to work with the cooperation of the community and other local government units to create a vibrant and healthy physical, social, economic environment. That's like what we're providing, not our vision of who Scappoose is, but what are we providing to our community?
It's your goals, it's what you live by in your daily operations, and what guides you as council and city administrators.
I can see that. I agree. I think it can fall within those categories, economic, community abilities, and once we kind of refine what those are, we can implement our vision for it. I mean, if we use it that way. I would also ask if we do that, focus like economy, community livability, public safety, and obviously parks and infrastructure, that alone could be our vision, and I would just add welcoming. So because that's what it's got.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is like interest in doing revisiting mission, vision, yes, and I'm hearing it.
I think it goes for goal 6 that the staff is pitching to us,
Yeah.
reviewing the charter and the DEI. So I think it would go in the new goal area, but is that something you're thinking we do independently, or are you asking for, I mean, it take work sessions and it, or do you need a consultant to do that? What do you?
I think that if we get this small, or we form a small, maybe two council members to go out and research what other communities are doing for their mission statement, and then we, just make up our own. I don't think it requires a consultant. There's so many examples already out there.
Yeah, in support of both. They are different things though, right? A vision, mission.
Yes, yeah, they are different.
They're different
Yeah.
things.
Okay, I'm gonna put it here and then we can. Okay. All right, let's move on to public safety. So, or sorry, Tim.
No, I've got two that I
Oh,
like.
okay,
others
let's talk
to
about it.
consider For livability.
Okay.
So one, I mean, I think we're one of the few cities that don't have a recreation center. And I know that doesn't, happen overnight. So I would like us to maybe look at what are the different pathways for us potentially to get a rec center, right? It's gonna require some land acquisition. What are like budget estimates potentially, just so we have started the process, which would be a very long one. And then that would help. I mean, we had some recreation identified last year that I think we kind of gained on, so it's a tangible one.
Okay. Other council members interested in explore recreation center feasibility, adding that as a.
I would like
goal.
to.
Yeah, I agree.
Dave, to what extent was that looked at as part of the parks?
I don't think it's highly touched on in there,
Yeah.
but the updated facilities master plan is gonna be talking about it.
Okay. I'm just gonna put it here for now, so part of the reason why we do the new stuff on the CDs is so we can move them around. Yeah, okay. And then you said you had
I'll
another one?
pitch one more. More kind of bikeways, designated bikeways within the city. I don't know if that would fall under livability, but, I'm not talking necessarily bike lanes, but, just kind of figuring out what are the safest routes for people maybe on the east side and the west side of highway where they need to be traversing to parks.
So I will say we do have a transportation system plan that covers a 20-year look basically at our transportation system. It does have a plan for designated bikeways already. And so that is an existing master plan that was adopted in 2016.
So where are we at in terms of like marking those and finding those? Because I'm not aware of any on the, like, the west side. I have like the middle school area or.
So bicycles specifically hasn't been addressed, because right now it's been sidewalk based. Our focus has been foot traffic more so than bicycle. But there are a few projects in that TSP where it could be as simple as painting a line and creating a bike corridor and things like that. But with all of the other focus being on pedestrian safety, it just hasn't rose to the top.
So could we add, just take all the work that's already been done and the plan that's been identified and just execute on that? Perhaps?
If you want to create a separate goal just for bicycles,
I mean, I
I
guess,
don't know how far that's gonna get.
well, I was gonna say, Dave, and we'll get to infrastructure here at the end, but I think there needs to be awareness around the amount of work coming up for Dave. Staff over the next few years to complete the ARPA projects, and then what does that look like in terms of executing some of our projects that are in that plan? I don't know what that looks like, but.
So what sorry, I'm just thinking maybe I'll put a placeholder, just put it down here, just for a moment. Okay. And then TSG, okay. Yes.
Dave, in 5.6, it says implement projects identified for funding by fuel tax dollars. Are those solely, do those have to do with sidewalks, or is it other things?
This doesn't align with the.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking on my long sheet. Says implement projects identified for funding by fuel tax dollars. Are all of our fuel tax dollar projects that we have listed, are those sidewalk specific and road? So could that go under community livability? Because we don't have it yet, we're adding new,
Could
or,
this go under?
yeah, could the tax
Well,
dollar
so
fuel.
when we restructured this a year ago, we tried to kind of compartmentalize by the department, if you will. So like.
Your goal five.
Is my work.
Got it.
You know,
I got it.
Lori has her goals. I
Yep.
mean, we kind of put it in.
I got it.
Who's managing those projects and that type of project?
But it does go into, okay.
It
thank
applies
you.
to both.
Yep.
It absolutely does. but-
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna propose that we move on to goal 3, and I'm thinking, and sometimes we have to shift gears in the way that we do this. Maybe let's go through these last 3 and like, let's just discuss the existing objectives. And then we'll hold the new things and we'll leave that for the end. And then because I feel like we're kind of getting a little bit stuck on like, where does it go? And like that is, and instead of focusing our energy on like that type of piece, because we can work with staff to refine the work plan after, just to make sure we get all like the direction and the ideas out here. Does that sound good to everybody? Okay, all right, so let's go on to public safety. So the goal is to create a safe city with a visible public safety presence. So 3.1. Complete operation needs analysis, prioritize the recommendations to support sufficient staffing. Has that been completed?
I believe it hasn't been completed to enough to cross it off and maybe reword it. Staff has changed it to prioritize retention of police department personnel.
I would just note that's something we always do. I mean, we don't stop focusing on retention.
But-
That's always an issue.
But if we start really saying, what can we do about it? We haven't looked at adding a levy or increasing the water rates or doing anything for retention focus. If we are ever wanting to do that, does that have to be a goal?
Requires additional funding. Thinking about how the city's going to develop the budget. Or if it's going to require additional funding mechanisms, yes.
I feel like that's different than prioritizing retention. Though. That's very, very specific about like explore funding options for the police department. I see those as 2 different things. Maybe that's just the HR
So,
word for retention.
but think about like, so the outcome there, so the outcome here is around supporting sufficient staffing for PD, so how can we support that? That's something that.
One thing we're doing right now, though, is for the next couple of weeks, we are looking at contracting with Washington or Columbia County. And that would change everything. And we'll know within a couple of weeks if that's not going to go. So are we going to pretend that that's not happening and let's focus on how we are now and what we would do going forward? And if that happens and that changes our goal, or does it affect it in any way? Or do we just let's forget about it even happening because it may not, and focus on if we had our own police department, what we need to focus on?
Well, I think the kind of the communication I've received and the things that have been passed along to me was to essentially keep operating,
Here, it's a little bit hard with the side conversation, sorry.
is to keep operating as we have been. Under that direction, I would say that yes, we need to keep focusing on retention and doing everything we were doing before. You know, we're going into negotiations. We're going to need to look at getting the best contract we can. I mean, again, all the communication that I've received has been, please proceed as usual. So I would argue that is what this is. When I brought up putting things on pause or putting projects on pause, it didn't seem like that was desired, which I think makes sense that we keep moving forward. So if you're asking though for the department to pause while you wait to make the decision, that's a little bit of a different discussion.
I mean, almost not that we can just keep it as is. All these things are still needed, whether, and even under this, as it's written right now, we still include looking at the county option.
So has the analysis been completed?
So
Yeah, okay, so maybe it's ongoing, so it's not complete. Okay, so ongoing. Right.
And just to clarify, I don't think it's analysis, I think it's an exploration, right? It's not an analysis, it's an exploration.
Yeah, it's just trying to get all of the information about what that's.
I mean, it will inherit these common analysis at over time, but.
Okay.
I would ask Lieutenant what his thoughts, being
Yes.
my main priority there, especially with retention, what they can think.
Thank you. Being here for now, I got a chance to be with the police department, community, understand some of the issues within the department was pursued. I think one thing is just having officers who are here, be able to have the proper, of course, data is always going to be an issue. I'm ready with you all as well. but also see what they want. So it's a couple things that I have done recently. We had a department-wide meeting where I got a chance to get input from officers, basic control officers about some of the issues that we have and forms them. Another thing, just besides the paid portion possibly, is just smaller departments will have the opportunity for either progression or additional duties that, for example, what police bureau does or their own stations. So one of the things we're trying to do is also incorporate the officers having the people who just have their professional development training and also have their ownership of positions. So that's something we can explore.
So I'd like to capitalize on that and put something in a goal in terms of you're talking about professional development and that might require someone from the outside coming in. It might look like funding for overtime, training. Okay, but you're saying they want extra shifts.
I would say that's the extra shift, but just additional opportunities to explore themselves into their own professional development.
Okay, so I'd like to pay for more professional development and opportunities to move up in the department.
Waiting for there.
Can I clarify on this? So I think we're talking about two different things, because the premise of this was the larger departments, you don't have all those different units, specialized divisions, things like that. We're never gonna have that as far size. So I just want to clarify what you mean about that. Is it just more, what can we do? Understanding and recognizing how small we are, what can we do to get as close as possible what can we do to get as close as possible with that? But we're never gonna have a SWAT team, we're never gonna, maybe we'll have a traffic, I don't know.
What I'm talking about is just having the opportunity for, have the funding to have all sorts of people go out there and do different trainings that are more participated around the whole entire state. And have that ability.
So just becoming like a safety instructor, he already.
Yes, that's correct.
That kind of stuff.
Ideally, have that type of support.
Is the end game there that it increases retention and it gets more people to want to come here because of those opportunities? I mean, it's the ultimate goal, prioritize retention, and those are tools of getting.
Yes.
Well, you also discussed bringing back certain assignments like school resource officer, detective, things that we have had in the past and don't currently have. But I know there was some discussion about some of the officers being interested in those.
Yes, but I also think though for us to maintain what we have now, we have 12 positions altogether from chief down to full officers. Lieutenant, which myself obviously who started considering full officers. And I know within the budget constraints of the council have decided that I mean, in the future, having those additional positions added to that 12, probably will be beneficial.
Then I would like leaving the operation needs analysis, because we're kind of doing that, but then also put on the prioritize retention of the police department. And that is the second goal. And one is pay, and maybe over the course of the year, we figure out, is there a way to pay, that as well as all those trainings we could provide, pay for those as well. Makes sense?
So we did complete a bunch of needs analysis this
We
year.
did that one, but now we're just kind of talking, we're looking at.
If we leave that on, though, you're telling us to do it again, do another needs analysis. So if
I think you're saying that it's not complete yet, is what I heard.
No, there's two. One was complete.
Theirs is an independent
Okay.
thing.
Right.
This is a staff thing.
Right,
Uh,
yeah,
so
yeah.
the
yeah.
staff
Okay,
one's
okay,
done.
yeah, that's why I was like.
Okay,
wait a
so
second,
that one's
like,
done,
it's
so
different.
okay, so there's another one that would be.
Yeah, that's maybe not a staff.
So then we're
goal.
refining.
It shouldn't go on the list though, because
Yeah.
staff is not doing it. This new initiative is counselor led. If they want staff to start taking it over and do something else, then
That's
it
the
should go
thing
on the
is that
list.
if during our analysis, say in the community's analysis, and everybody decides that's what they want, then staff is gonna have to be tasked with making this transition work.
So it should say something about contract policing up there.
Just.
So I'm hearing, so I was hearing like a potential objective is prioritize police staff retention. And then there's a bunch of different ways that you could do that. But I haven't heard from everyone.
I think hearing two different things here, and I don't want to dismiss what Lieutenant Blount just said. I do think that we should, in the whole of support, I think this what he's asking is for more opportunities for training, right? Training, and eventually there's positions that Alex mentioned that we don't have currently, but those are not going to be put on the 12. It's going to be additional additional staff for that. So however, that's gonna, I think that should be, I'm not sure, I can't see the orange, so I'm not sure.
No, it's like support retention, professional development and training.
Yeah, so but that
So
is
staff.
no, and then I think I heard another thing here separately.
Way in from others. Is it two separate things?
Yes, they're two separate things.
Okay, so we've got, so one is prior supporting retention, and what's the other one?
Contract leasing. They're exploring if we should contract lease with the Columbia County Sheriff's Department, or if we should, and dispose of what we have, or if we should be an independent department.
Okay.
Yeah, us pursuing that won't have anything to do with staff unless it is voted on to decide to do it. Then it will probably require staff to be involved to handle the transition. But I don't know if that's a goal, because it may never happen.
So that feels like a lot of like different things that have to take place. So what's the outcome? Like what are you trying to provide to the community?
Yeah, I think
What's the, like, what's the
That's just,
goal?
yeah, that's a good point. So the North Star is kind of 24/7, 365 police coverage. How do we accomplish that within the budget that we have without having to go ask for additional money? That's kind of the point.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe our goal is determine how do we get, is it a local department? How do we get to 24/7 coverage?
Yeah, there's 24, so you look at it like 24/7, 365 coverage, 2 on all the time. That's really what the goal is, my understanding. And then it branches off. There's 2 branches from that. Is it contracting with the sheriff's office, or is it maintaining our own police department? And how does each of those things work?
And we're gonna do it with our own department. We're gonna have staff. How would we do this? How much is it gonna cost?
And then you,
How many officers do you need? Where are we now?
okay, so I'm seeing yes, yes, yes.
But I'm
Yes,
also seeing a
yes,
lot
but
of
with the,
competition.
yes, but with the input of the current police department, the officers.
Okay, so
I want to see, I would like to hear what they think.
I have 2 in yes.
So
Not sure.
if we're exploring 24/7, 365 coverage and it's on that list, then you're asking the staff to do that, not you. And so I'm confused on now the staff is a part of the conversation when they haven't been.
This is true. We're exploring it as we've already decided with council. So we are exploring if we are going to, with the discovery right now, we are gaining information. That information is going to be brought back to council, and council will decide at each phase what to do from there. At some point, yes, it will become staff dependent, but we're not there yet. So we can't make any decision about staff at this point because we just don't even know if council's going to support what way council's going to want to go.
And
So maybe I'm hearing just, maybe the goal needs to continue, support sufficient staffing for PD. It's, there's more work that needs to be done to come to that conclusion about what that best decision is.
The goal is 24/7, 365 coverage. I think we should just leave it.
But I'm hearing that from one person, so I need to hear that from majority.
So my understanding is that North Star from the last year plus and a half conversations. How we get there, as last year was we want to strive to get, we have to get staffing up. There's all these infrastructure things we have to do with the police department to try to move towards that direction. So I don't necessarily, my understanding that North Star hasn't changed. And even in all the conversations we've had, it's, we're making progress. Like now we have 2 shifts of police officers. Like that's we made a step in the right direction towards achieving 24/7. So am I wrong in my assessment and how we're talking about this? Or
If I can, it does come down to attention, because I won't be here for a year, but I'm pretty sure Scappoose PD at some point has had pretty broad coverage by the head. So it comes down to retaining the people that we're training or funding for, bring through a system, and actually stay here and continue to build it. When I put it, there's a bucket, we try to fill that bucket, but there's more at the bottom, or how much more we put inside of it, this is what the teams are not going to do. So the retention part is a very, very solid part to keep away to that 45, which is possible, whether they do council size through CCSO or with us. It's something that I think that right now we are, as police department, since I'm here as lieutenant, are working towards. I know since I've been here, I set up boards, hired a sergeant, 2 officers. Another officer right now is down the same DPS, Stephen Cabin, Brandon, March 29th. We'll have to go through the process to get fully put that in solo status, but we are working towards it.
And that's going to
So,
To your point, that's gonna be the case even if we were to end up deciding to go to CCSO, because the officers are all gonna transfer over, and those bodies are gonna be needed regardless. So that's a very valid point, because retention is, that's the key thing, no matter what.
okay, so I want to get Andrew. If you just want to, because it's been a while, so it's fine. Not to put you on the spot.
No, no, no.
I just want to just check in.
So it sounds like we can, if we put retention as the overall goal, you can, that would work. Like 24/7 is under that.
I was, yes, that's what the goal is, but the council has to decide is how you're gonna measure that, and just, officers hired, how long he or she stay here with the department. It comes down to it, but that's part of the goal I think we all want. Retention is gonna be really important.
I think 24/7, I mean, that's my North Star, but it's, my question is, what does it take to get there? And is that what the community wants? Is that what we really want to strive for? Because here's what it's gonna cost. And if you want to pay for that coverage, then how do we get there? We're gonna have to retain officers, we're gonna have to pay them more, we're gonna have to go do this. But I think the goal is 24/7 coverage. And then the staff is figure out how much does that cost? What is it gonna take to get there? How many officers? But also, can you add pay funding to the 3.11, because paying them more retains them. And so we have to figure out how ways can we fund pay more. But I think that retention will then help us get to 24/7, because when you're retaining them, you're not short, you're not hiring brand new ones. I think retention is like the number one goal towards getting there.
So I want to, Isaac has something that he wants to say. I'm looking at the clock. It's really good conference, like it's good, we're in it, but we also just need to keep moving forward. We're going to be able to capture everything.
So that goal, you're gonna have a 3-point something that says 24/7, 365 coverage, pursue feasibility and options. And you're gonna have staff do that work. Is that what that's up there for? Because that's what I read it as. That what that means is that there's gonna be a 3-point something that says basically staff explore feasibility and options for 24/365 coverage, but we're not involved with what's going on. So even if it does, we're gonna be very challenged to actually know what's happening. And if we're not involved with what's happening with CCSO and we decide to go that route, well, we may have expended tax dollars with staff doing things when we don't. So I'm just a little confused on what it would be that we'd be doing next year.
I mean, I think that particular goal, if it's assigned to staff, like we're saying, we could explore what it would take to do the 24/7, 365 with, having an in-house department, while council continues to look at what CCSO might look like. I think that, retaining the options we have is obviously going to be a big push. Negotiating the new contract that's coming up, that's going to expire soon, is going to be a big part of that in terms of changing their income, levels and wages and things like that. But the reality is that when it comes to adding staff to try to get to this 24/7, 2 on at all times, that's going to be the sticking point, because that's really going to require probably a new funding source, like an operating levy or something like that for the city, because you're only seeing the, around a 3% increase in the general fund per year, and you do have the potential conflicts and issues with urban renewal then taking money out of the general fund. So, we could certainly get there with our own department. It just, you're looking at a process of going through, what that's gonna end up looking like. So like I said, staff could start looking at that and looking at potentials for operating levies and whatnot, while council looks at CCSO. And then ultimately, there'll be some decision made by council, but clarity on that would be just good for staff to understand what their role exactly is gonna look like.
If I understand right, are we asking, let's say, you said for lieutenant, if we were to have 24/2 on at all times, how many do we need? That's all we're basically asking, and what the cost would be associated with that.
So it's like pursuing options and feasibility to get to this, to get there.
And then we know it may not happen, it may take years, because we need 12 officers, we've got some on leave, and there's a few that are, it will take a lot of time, but what, what's the number?
Yeah, what's it gonna take, and then figuring out, is it feasible, do we need to look at additional funding streams, additional staffing?
Well, you'll need additional funding if you want more staff.
You will.
Yeah, yeah, so all of that, but but my point is like, where's it gonna come from, because you're like, safety.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's,
We do have to also consider that when we're negotiating. You know, 'cause if we're gonna have somebody working nights, then we pay them more to work nights. We don't have that now. You know, so because that, just something to think about when we negotiate. 'Cause that's in the union contract. So.
I just keep going back. I know, I understand that the original goal was completed, but everything that people keep saying, it needs to be done, not entirely again, but it's just, it needs ongoing operations analysis. So I guess I just keep going with what's wrong with the original goal. There's so many moving parts, even more now in the past few weeks, I guess. What's wrong with wording it just as is?
Continue the operational.
Yeah.
analysis.
I think before we were just looking at sufficient staff. Now we're talking 2 on patrol at all times, not on call. That's like a new goal.
Or you couldn't build that within the umbrella of what it is right now.
If I may, we have to compare what CCSO is gonna provide us as far as their cost plans and everything. We're gonna need an apples to apples to what that would cost in-house if we continue our PD. So I think to Alex's point, which I think was very clear and good, is that I think we do need staff to start putting together the plan of how much it would cost for apples to apples. So that's whatever it is to get 2 on all the time, 2 patrol officers on duty, on patrol, 20% of 365. And I think also there's a school resource officer in there as well. We're gonna have to say, okay, we can get this coverage, which is the goal, from CCSO at this price. We can get it from Scappoose PD internally for this price, but we're gonna need the two to show a side by side when we get to that point.
Yeah, I think one big piece of this, I know we assume that the community wants 24/7. I think it's a fair assumption, but we've not really done any like in-depth outreach, like what's that want?
Well, that's what we have to find out what it costs. Then we go out to the people and say, do you want 24 cover? You're gonna have to pay a levy. If you want to get that, we're gonna have to pay more. Or are we okay where we are on call? Are we okay?
Yeah.
With not 24/7, 2 on, and I want to let them.
Yeah, we need community engagement.
well, I think an important part of that conversation too comes down to, and Lieutenant, you can probably speak to this, is, you know, when you have folks that are on call and they're getting called out, you know, are you guys having an issue? I think you had given me some data where there hadn't been that many times where on-call officers were called out, but when they were able to cover the calls, correct?
I don't call myself as well. We have all these folks. And to give you a better idea of this way everything works right now, is our cover shift together for officers right now. We have 4 patrol right now. So there's one of these shift orders. Our days divided by Wednesday. So to get down to there, all we have to do is get those other 8 patrol positions that we have full. That'll give us the 24 hours.
That might be it. We have enough. We just need to get them.
But it's the recruitment, like I said, the retention portion is the biggest problem. Because if you do that, get another officer hired, but the other officer decides to leave the department for better pay or different opportunities or work life, whatever they need, then just constantly just trying to fill that. That's what I've seen consistently. So,
I want to propose something. So what if it stays on and then it's fleshed out differently with these pieces fitting with it? All right. I just want to, in the interest of time, I just want to keep this in.
That's one, but can we get data of how many calls come in from?
We'd have that.
We have that.
Okay.
We took,
Okay.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we took 6 on-call calls over like 3 months.
I don't know exactly what I'm talking
It was pretty low. And we responded to all the on-call calls.
Okay, so the next objective is around code enforcement. Increased code enforcement operations. Has this been done?
Ongoing, but they've recommended to change it to continue.
Okay.
So can we build that in as part of like day-to-day operations, or does it still continue to be a goal? And yes,
I think it can.
I think it's something that
Yeah.
happens consistently.
still leave it, Lieutenant?
Yeah.
You'll still do code
Well,
enforcement?
this is first, so like, go out there and conquest people, that's something you're doing.
Really?
Okay, right. 3.3 around funding and increase the community engagement and outreach for public safety. Is that where something?
They've crossed off increased, I don't think maybe increased, but fund community engagement and outreach, I like that. If go to events, you have to buy food, we fund some, put them out there in the community.
So keeping,
Yeah.
okay, 2.3 to keep.
We're gonna keep it and take the steps and judgment on it.
I think we're taking opposite attention, code enforcement will go up, to go up more people are able to spend the time.
Okay.
We still do, like, for example, there's a lot of.
Are we circling back for the details?
We're gonna
Keep going.
We're gonna keep going and we'll come back to it together. All right, so that's public safety.
It's an issue still for public.
Okay, so let's see, okay, we're getting close to, okay, we're hoping to break for lunch at 12:30, which is 35 minutes. So, okay, let's talk about parks. Or do you guys want to do parks or infrastructure?
And can I just preemptively put this out there? Are we okay with working lunch?
I wanted to propose that too. We are having really good conversation. I don't want to cut it short because it's a really valuable time, but I also don't want to say.
Yes, please.
Yeah, let's do it.
Is everyone
Okay,
okay with
yeah,
working
all
lunch?
right.
Okay.
Gotta call it agree.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
that, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. Okay.
Just public safety,
I would envision are gonna be our.
Weighty?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so do you wanna, are you guys ready to wade into parks, or do you just kind of like, wanna like skip over to infrastructure?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do parks. Okay, all right, so there's 4 objectives here, so, okay. The first one is update the master, Parks and Rec master plan, prioritize projects and pursue funding, and so, seems like this one's like in progress.
It's on the planning commission next month.
So
Yeah,
we-
and then it's the prioritization
rephrased
piece, so
that.
we need to refine it.
we proposed a rephrase on that.
Oh, you did, okay.
We're at 4.1, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
It's, at the end of those were done, they kind of said the next steps is apply for the grant for GrabWorld. But I think Dave's gonna present, and whether we may not decide to apply, but maybe we look at that, the whole process, do we want to apply? Because like I said, if we do apply and get it, we're gonna have to take on debt. So we may,
You're gonna have a big eye open.
so we may not want to apply for it.
So can we put like an asterisk to, I don't know. I think there's a decision point on this one, a big one coming up
Okay,
imminently.
'cause I'm hearing 2 different, so I'm hearing a couple different things. So there's like a specific question about what do we do about GrabWorld? Do we go after the funding and like that? So there's like that something. And then I'm hearing master plan's gonna be adopted and finalized soon. And then there's this interest too, which would be continuing this goal of prioritizing the projects and pursuing funding for each of those projects. GrabWorld being one of them. But I probably heard every single counselor mention GrabWorld specifically in the outreach, so I'm just wondering if that is something specific that we want to call out as like that,
Its own goal.
its own goal.
I think so.
Yes.
It will probably
Would you
be,
agree that?
Well,
we
I
should-
don't know that I agree specifically. What I would phrase this as is implement Parks Master.
Yes.
Yep.
Because at some level of that document may change your whole thought process and you're gonna reprioritize. When you see the numbers number, where are you gonna leave that out? You may say, let's go over it.
Okay.
but by saying that, does that give you guys enough direction to go out and implement the work?
I believe it
It
does.
does.
The master plan is very detailed about what
Very
happens and what needs to happen in which area. And that's the purpose, is that we don't have to create that every time. We have 10 years and we can look at this document and kind of work through things.
Implement
I had a question, does that fall under one of the sticky notes under recreation, under recreation facility, or what was that? So would that fall under the plan, or would that be a separate thing? To create a recreational facility,
Well, to me, that kind of falls under implement
right?
the CSD within county. Like if you start to figure out a strategy, first will be prioritization. So you'll use that document to prioritize, and then you figure out, how are we going to take these on and actually develop this.
So can you remind me of what's going on with the high, with the middle school situation?
We have no idea. Business as usual, I mean, at this point, until they do another levy or status.
They have a bond talk on Monday. They're not even, it's gonna be several years.
It usually takes about 2 cycles before you see it come back.
So I'm thinking you're saying, implement it, but that, it isn't real specific, and you'll come to us throughout the year and say, okay, here's part of an implementation, we want to go out for a grant, and then we'll apply.
Yeah, I'm sort of seeing Megan and then. Sorry, oh, thank you.
Am I not mistaken, though, something has to be done with Blackboard in terms of development, we gotta give the land back.
No, it's our land.
It's just that there was a deadline involved with applying for the grant, because we could use the purchase price of that property as the grant match, therefore not taking money out of our pocket, using the amount that we already paid for the land as the match. And there was no stipulation of purchasing the land.
No.
Timeline.
Just that it's developed into.
The-
We have this April and next April before that. Matching funds came up.
So the grant that we would go after is a matching 1-to-1 grant. The nice thing about the purchase price, you don't have to put more money in. We were just trying to make something happen to capitalize on that expenditure as much as possible.
If we make a goal that just says prioritize the park master plan, that would give people an order of how to do things, but what's being done in there will be implemented, but maybe people want certain things to happen before another.
If you write the goal somewhat ambiguous, as Tyler mentioned earlier, where you just put, prioritize and implement master.
Yep.
Then what that does is that triggers the development of that action plan, in which staff will then start to tell you the steps that are going to be taken. And then we do the check at the end of the year.
People might
This is
say
what we did
prioritize
against that.
Grabhorn and do this,
Yeah, so the detail doesn't have to be in the title. The detail is going to be in the goals action plan.
the word.
Is council feel comfortable with that?
Yep.
Yes. But I guess I would maintain though that plan really did, in my mind, it was not a parks and recreation master plan. Like, I think I would like to keep a specific goal around exploring the feasibility of a parks, like a parks and rec center.
All right, so.
Facility.
Would you say rec center or recreation in general? Because in my opinion, this city needs a recreation program.
We also need that.
But that's completely standalone from your parks department. Like you need a recreation program. That, public works people don't manage. So you're talking about 2 different entities. That maybe that's a goal, create a recreation program within Scappoose.
Explore recreational program in Scappoose.
That would be a separate goal.
Whole center's gonna inherently expand what that looks like too, but that doesn't mean we don't stop doing that first. But yeah, I think to your point, your point is we want to be kind of broad on what we.
Yeah, you could even title it, create recreation program and facilities.
Right.
You can bucket that however you want, and then that gives you start building that roadmap forward.
And the flexibility for grants and stuff, so we all know what it means.
How does council feel about that?
I just don't know how you're gonna, with goals right now, today, what we're telling you to go out and do.
I think it's an exploration too, as opposed to an established, because obviously our general fund dollars, which support parks, is completely limited. And so it's not like we can go out and, create, a recreation department right now or a program at this time. So I think-
Pursue.
I'm gonna put it right here.
Yes,
Explore recreation program feasibility.
Program and facility.
Yes.
I mean, this next year,
oh,
I
and
think
facility,
mayors are gonna have some difficult discussions about how about.
Hmm.
It is not a choice. Right now, there's no money for parks, and so that's.
Where are we on the feasibility, feasibility study of, the facilities study? Can we add a recreation center? Can we have someone look into that during our meeting?
I don't know to what extent, are they giving us like an estimate on cost or?
The next month cost for the total project, you mean?
Yeah, for a rec center.
Oh, I don't know
Or
that
what
they're
is
giving
this?
us a cost.
They're
I
just
don't
going
think-
through our existing.
No, because I
buildings.
think the idea was that if, the school got their bond and we were to utilize the middle school, that we could use some of that space for something like that or community use of some kind. But now obviously that may not be an option. We're still having them assess the middle school
Yeah.
in terms of,
Potential features.
yeah, potential future use, but, right now, I think that's the extent of it.
More discussion on 4.1, or do we feel like it's covered if we refine it to implement Parks and Recreation Plan? And then the part, that's just gonna inherently continue the prioritization of projects. and pursuing funding.
And then what your recommendation, that will be covered in your the next meeting, you'll give us a proposal, you'll talk about Grabhorn, and then we'll decide if we want to pursue that.
Right.
That will be the ask at that meeting, is do you want us to move forward or do you not?
Just to double down. And he'll be able to also share with us what those trade-offs would be as it relates maybe to the holistic master plan. Like, if you do Grabhorn, you're not going to be able to do Frank Van Dam, or your focus is only going to be here. So that.
Is the master plan's not fully adopted yet? I mean, I'm not divulging into that. What I'm gonna come to you with is, here's what this park is gonna cost. I can tell you it's a 10,000 foot, what that's, it's gonna be laid out pretty well.
Okay.
For kind of what your future looks like.
Okay.
But it would require loans. I don't
Sure.
know the way that looks, right?
Yeah.
It would require loans, and I don't know what that scheme is, for sure. I don't know what the final costs are. I have the engineer's estimate, and that's what the numbers are gonna be based on in that presentation, but you know, how many years that impacts us from ever building another park, I don't have that detail, because I don't know what that loan will look like.
If we don't decide to that, though, then we'll be able to talk about, well, what will we do? What can we do? What do we have to wait? We'll look at the next priority. What to make.
And we can have work sessions moving forward, and this really meeting is really just to talk about Grabhorn. Do you have the appetite to move forward, or do you want to curb this for a little bit and let's do something else? That's what we're into.
I just want to make just point to council that if we do decide to pause it or not do it this year, push it to next year, increase the cost is going to go up automatically. So consider that as well, right?